Blessed love, blessed love, blessed love, my people, blessed love. We are gathered here once again for community conversations. My internet is a little glitchy tonight, so you're going to have to bear with me, my brothers and sisters. It's really weird. It's almost like I'm back in Tanzania, the way that this thing is performing tonight. So, yeah, welcome back, brothers and sisters. It feels like we've been away for a lot longer. It's literally just 1 week that we missed. This will be the second week and we're back on. So it just feels really weird, really, really weird. That feels long, maybe because of the long weekend or whatever. I hope you all had a good Easter, for those of you that celebrate it. And you know, whether you celebrate it or not, it's still a nice time for family to come together and break bread, as it were. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of tonight. The room has filled up very, very quickly. Tonight, we've got a little bit of a different format for you, my brothers and sisters. It's going to be an open forum, an open panel. We're expecting 3 guests tonight, and we're not going to do a call out tonight. We will be doing call outs as of next week and continue with that format. And maybe towards the end, I'll talk a little bit more about updates and, you know, what it is that we're planning moving forward and where certain cases have got to. But for the time being, for tonight, we're going to focus on something really, really serious that's happening in our community with our young people. Okay. You may well be aware of Aaliyah Montague and Lena Benasef, I think is how you say the surname, who went missing early last week, I think it was. It was literally 7 days before they were found. So you may be aware of that. It has been on the news. Lots of people have been running it on their socials and so on. And we're very, very happy and grateful to the Most High with all the prayers that went in, that those prayers were answered, including the prayers of the family, especially the prayers of the family were answered, and those young people have been found. But there are big issues surrounding that, my brothers and sisters, in terms of the grooming that's going on, the sexual abuse that takes place within those settings, the county lines, and all that's going on. So we're going to hear from the mother of Aaliyah Montague. She'll be coming on in a minute, Claudette Montague. Well, I'm assuming her surname's Montague. I'll let her introduce herself. We're also running, before I go into that, you know, I like to chop and change and stepstone, but we're also still running our £3 challenge for tonight. £3 minimum. If you can give more, please do, my brothers and sisters. Again, we'll put those bulletins out at the end of tonight's presentation. But we really want to get into hearing from Mum and hearing, like, just going through that journey of what it looks like from a parent's point of view. And then we're going to hear from Sheldon Thomas, who's a gangs consultant. We're going to hear from him. And hopefully we're also going to hear from a sister called Sister Lasida, who is from Sisters of the Underground in America. They specialize in looking for missing Black girls. And we're hoping to open or collaborate and have a UK chapter of Sisters of the Underground running alongside the services that we've got planned in the UK. So lots and lots packed in for tonight. Really different format and focus. It's really interesting, you know, because I'm looking at the numbers on the live, which is a good, healthy number right now. But you see, when there's a call out, it fills up with 600 people and God knows what else, everybody looking to spectate, you know. And that's one of the things that I feel that we needed to move away from necessarily. Let's get rid of the trolls, those who want to just spectate and look at PASA and deal with the seriousness. It's not about the numbers for me. It's about who is serious in the room and who wants to look at the real issues. That's what it's about. So let's continue with that. We're going to hear from Claudette. I'm going to bring her on now and just really to let her tell her story at the end of the day, because I could ramble on about what I think. I will say to you that I've experienced that. My daughter at age 16 went missing for 3 days. Thankfully, it wasn't county lines or anything like that. It was an actual love story. So she eloped, really. Thankfully, we got her back. That's a whole other story. But I can relate to the sheer terror that a mother feels in those missing days. It's absolutely horrendous. So we're going to hear from Sister now. I'm going to bring her on. Sister, blessed love to you, my sister. How are you doing, Claudette?
I'm okay. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to come, especially at such short notice and with all that's been going on as well, my sister. So I was just okay, somebody said before we begin, somebody says, can we clear up the surname? Um because some people feel that only one person can have a surname. I think it's actually a bit idiotic. Not that you're idiotic for asking me to clear it up, my sister G, but come on, guys. Like, does it have to be related to the people that killed Damilola Taylor? If he is, fair enough. But if he's not, it's just a surname. There are lots of people with the surname um, that sounds the same, actually, because the surname is spelt with an I, not an E.
Mm-hmm.
It's Priddy and not Preddy. So let me just clear that up for people. It is Priddy with an I, not Preddy with an E. I believe the people that murdered Damilola Taylor were Preddy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So let's just clear that one out of the room, okay? Um, yeah. So yeah, that's clarified. So yes, sis, I was just just taking people through the different aspects and angles. We obviously can't talk about the case because it is an ongoing case now. So we're
That's
not going
right.
to
It
talk
is.
about details in that regard. But really, it was just about trying to explore what it is that a parent feels in those moments and in those missing days, but also how, what kind of toolkit can we give to other parents, what to look for, you know, what are the kind of red flags that you may now see in hindsight. What
Mm-hmm.
can they do? Can we give them any foresight? It's that kind of thing, really. But if we can just start, sis, with, just take us through when you first realized that your daughter was missing.
I first realised my daughter was missing. I left her here at I left my home at 3 o'clock. She was here with my older daughter, and I went out. I was just going to the market, and on the way back, an hour later, my daughter called me and she said to me, she kept repeating, "Mum, mum," and I said, "What?" She said, "Elias went to the end of the road and didn't come back." I was on my way home, so I made my way back home.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the corner shop, didn't see her, come back in, and I called the police straight away because I know she doesn't go, if she's going to go to the end of the road, she'll go to the end of the road and she'll come back. I
Mm-hmm.
called the police, they attended. I had her phone here, I had her laptops, anything that she uses.
Mm-hmm.
They went to her bedroom, asked this. They said that it looks like she's come from a good home, so they're gonna put a missing persons bulletin out for her. Her
So
phone was there.
you call the police
I
straight
called
away.
her. Yes, I
Just
did.
felt
Yes, I did.
instinctively that it was out of
Yeah,
character.
she
Yeah.
doesn't because she doesn't go to the. We live like a minute or I say 2 minute walk to the end of the road. So there's no excuse. Even in the hour I've left the house, she should have been back home a long time ago. They came, they attended the house. They asked for an oyster. I gave them the oyster number. Her her phone was sitting there. You can take the phone. No, just
Mm-hmm.
gave me an email to email her picture and anything else we found. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're trying now. I've got her phone and I've got her laptops. We're trying to get in there and see what we could find. My family's come here at this time, and I think I no, I think I got another call from the police. Oh, I called the police to see what was going on because, nothing. Then we've gone into the Thursday. I'm calling this. I've constantly got to be calling the police to find out what's going on. This time we've put it out on social media with what tools we had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very difficult to get in contact with the police, and this is I find so anyway. Get in contact with the police. It was constantly going around and round in circles. And we're pushing it, we're getting out there, we're putting flyers out, we're trying to see what we can do from our parts. In my family now, we were getting advice from a police officer because that's in our family.
Mm-hmm.
Telling us what to ask for. Because every time we call, we're not getting called back. So we was told to use a certain trigger word and then read a statement out to them. Okay, that was handed
Mhm.
to them. In 5 minutes later, they was called back. We were called back and we were spoken to. I was told certain things from before the day before what was supposed to be put in place. And when I was explaining to this higher ranking person, he was wondering,
Mhm.
well, why was you told that, and blah, why was you this and why was you that?
Mhm.
Thought fine. I couldn't articulate myself clearly enough because I always got myself angry and started shouting and screaming because you're constantly repeating the same thing over and over and you're always speaking to different people at this
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Okay. In the background now, because we're sharing, we've got social media friends, somebody reached out to me that I've known all my life and they wasn't here in London, so they put me onto somebody else, and that person was communicating with somebody in higher places
Mhm.
out there in the universe. Oh, I'm so happy. Um, we then went down in was going down into all of what was going on. We were doing our own investigations, handing over every information we got. We were handing it over to the police.
Mhm.
It was not an and we had the excuse because it's the bank holiday and a lot of people was off, all the different agencies was off. So it was agreed on Friday, I believe. If she was not back by Tuesday, it was going to have this big meeting with the police and CAMS and different social service, all these people, and the police was going to be asked to be accountable for what they had done prior to that day.
Mhm.
The family went down flying in certain areas. They went and put posters up Saturday in certain different areas. They went back on Monday.
Mhm.
Tuesday morning, they had this big meeting. I was allocated social workers. I was allocated. I had a missing persons liaison officer allocated to me on, I think, Thursday from my area that I live in. Really,
Mhm.
really, she called every single day to check in, give any advice. And after this meeting on Tuesday, police officer came round, and at this time I'm agitated because it was not taken seriously. And she apologized because it wasn't, like she said, it wasn't taken seriously.
But by
Um,
then it was a week, almost a week in, wasn't it?
correct.
Mhm.
It wasn't taken seriously. She apologized. Anyway, Tuesday, bearing in mind she went away last Wednesday, on Tuesday, they decided to take her phone and her laptop. Yeah. And every time we're speaking, we're saying we've got all of these things.
Mhm.
We're telling them.
Mhm.
She said it wasn't allocated, and then she was graded on a level 2. That means it's not as it's serious, but if it was level 3,
That's
we can
right.
get in out there into the anyway. The
For
events started.
those, just sorry, sister, for those
Go on.
people that don't know, level two is in terms of risk um,
Yes.
as a missing person. You know, they graded sister's daughter as a level two, but she's a 16-year-old girl that's gone missing, and
Hmm.
it's been uncharacteristic of her. You know, so really that should have instantly have been a level three. She's a child. There's a massive safeguarding issue, and it's out of character, which I'm sure her school would have also bared testament to. But we'll get on to why we think those, that our children are usually graded lower in terms of priority or risk in a moment, sis. But I just wanted to break that down for people that don't know what the levels are all about. Level three is the highest.
Right.
Mm.
Um. I'm just getting there's so much what happened. What did I get to?
You were where they had started to
Level
escalate
2.
it now to
Right,
level
right,
three. Yeah.
right. So she said, you know what? To get put things in place, to get access to certain things, it should have to be a 3. So anyway, she went back to her boss. They automatically put to level 3. I was contacted by the before they put it to level 3. I was contacted by the BBC radio because everybody was reaching out to these newspapers and they started to use the newspaper media other than social media. out there. And then it turned, she called me, said, look, it's level 3. They turned it over to the different branch that dealt with it, CID. They at this time was taken much more seriously than what they were, and they wasted a lot of time. So I know the first 48 hours is the most critical time, but it wasn't in this stage. And we started getting, then we had an office, CID officer that we can communicate. So if we have anything that we need to ask or need to know, we can communicate with this person because we knew that person. We had their number. We can communicate instead of doing 101 all the time, as it was.
So it was also about a week in, at the point where they took the laptop, escalated it, that you then got the police liaison as well.
Right.
Okay.
That's what it was. I was very, 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 very frustrated because I didn't know what I could say. I didn't know what I could do. There was so much, an incident happened. I don't know. I don't think I told you, Afua, what happened, where I was reprimanded for doing something that I didn't know that I shouldn't have done. Because if we had that liaison officer and say, look, you know what, you can put this safely out there on the media, or don't mention this. We didn't. We were walking blindly. I mean, I say blindly. I mean, blindly. We done everything ourselves. We put it out there ourselves. Okay. Anyway, they were communicating with
Can I
us.
just stop you there? We've just been joined by Lasidi Shakur from America. I'm going to put her on mute, but I don't know if she's been able to watch and catch up with what you've been saying. So I kind of want her to hear what you're saying as well. Yeah. If that's okay with you. Is
that's
that okay?
Fine. That's fine.
Greetings, Sister Lasidi. How are you, my sister? Blessed love. Thank you for joining us from 8 hours away.
Yes, ma'am. How's everyone today?
We're good. We're good. I'm just going to put you on mute. This is Claudette. She's the mother of the young sister that went missing, who's just been found, and she's just kind of sharing with us, what her experience was within that. So I'm going to mute you up for now. I wasn't aware if you'd been watching on YouTube, so I thought let me let you in so you can hear what was going on.
Okay, beautiful.
All right, go ahead, sis.
Okay. Like I said, they took the laptop Tuesday. Wednesday, I was calling, they were calling. I was really, the other family, the mother from the other family, we was communicating constantly throughout all of this and supporting each other. I will say that. Beautiful lady. Yesterday, I woke up. I never slept the whole night. I never slept. I've not been sleeping, not been eating. But yesterday, I couldn't sleep. Anyway, from I woke up, the day before, we was assigned a CID officer, inspector, whatever her name was. I had a number. Yesterday, no one ever called me. All day yesterday, nobody never called me. I called 101, I called 999, no form of communication except for with the other little girl's mum. And I'm getting angry again. I'm getting frustrated again. I thought to myself, why aren't they communicating with me? So I had to keep on. So what I had to do, I had to relay a message via 101 for someone to call me. I was called by CID, the lady, and she said her boss wants to speak to me. Come on the phone. This is about 5:30. 5:30 because my daughter's mother-in-law we were sitting in the kitchen and we were talking, and he come on and he said to me, I said why I wanted to speak to them, why I wanted to speak to them so badly is because the BBC News wanted me to go on the show, wanted me to go on the news, but I didn't want to go on the news without seeking advice this time to what to say and what not to say. That's why I want to speak to them. He got on the phone. Well, we don't want you to. I don't want to go on the news, which is I respect that because we've got our leads, which I respect. I said that was fine because he doesn't want me to sabotage it, and things have been put out there already, which could affect the progress of the case. And I didn't know none of this because, like I said, I've never been through anything like this before, and I didn't know anybody, and we were all supporting each other, and I just done the best that I thought that I should have done at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite combative with me, but so was I, because that was my child. Okay, that was my child. You wasted the first 48 hours. You didn't take it seriously. I apologize. Let's put a line under it. You and your line under it. That's what he's told me. Okay, we're back on the fold, and I thought to myself, I don't need to do this no more. Just let me deal with back with the lady who's dealing with my case. So she said, any news that she gets, they're working on leads. This is yesterday. They will contact me. I said, fine. I carried on throughout my day. And then what I did the day before, I was speaking to Afua. She said to me, look, you know what you need to do is request a police liaison officer to come into your home to speak to the family, and to have somebody there that can advocate for you. And I said, fine. And I was going to sort it out. That was the day before. I heard nothing more about it. And that's what I was chasing up again yesterday.
Right.
So they said, all right, then we're going to send blah, blah out to your house. They did that. They'll be here in whatever time. So I was waiting for them. And when they came, my daughter came at this time, because I asked her, I wanted her to be here because it was too late to speak to get you there. I wanted her to be there so she can ask any questions she needs to. So when they
This
came
is
in,
your older daughter.
yeah, my older that we've been speaking to. So when they came into the kitchen and they said, we found them. They said, we found them. And I remember all of me just, it's like everything slowed down. My daughter was dropping. I had to hold her up, and the tears. So I said, when did you find out? She said to me, on the way here to talk to us, they got the call in, they've got them. I said, that's fine. This is wonderful. She said, don't tell anybody so we can like debrief them and do what they have to do. We'll tell everybody tomorrow. I said, fine. Anyway, I started to get phone calls. I thought to myself, why is all the... I know that everybody's calling me because she's missing. And then my best friend, they found her. And I said, no, they haven't. She said, but I've been told they've found her. And my daughter started searching social media. She's then WhatsApps me but the police had put it out, and I'm like, I've been lying to people saying that we haven't found them, and yet the Metropolitan Police has put it on their website. So I'm blowing. Yeah, I've called them. I called the lady that was dealing with my case. I said, why would you tell me not to put it out there in your own police forces put it out there, it states there the family are aware. And I've had people ask me, and I've said no, because you've told me not to do it. You've made me look like a liar, like I've been fooling these, and I haven't. Oh, she's apologized because she didn't know that she didn't know that they've announced it. She was just told to tell me not to announce anything. Wait until tomorrow so that they can have time to deal with it, what they're dealing with. The whole experience on that part of it was horrendous.
It's just always a comedy of errors with these people, isn't it?
They're always so sorry, but I will say this, and I've said it to them. I didn't go behind I didn't put my mouth around. I said, if my child was blonde hair and blue eyes, yeah, she would have hit the news a long time ago. She would have been on social media, your official site. You know, I had all of the battles where, if we put them on level 3, the more serious cases, it's going to be like not been noticed. I've had all of this. We've been told, oh well, we've got thousands of other children missing. I don't give a. I was talking about mine. And I really do feel for every single person that is missing, but I was not communicating about anybody else. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about mine at this moment in time. I've had all of that. And to navigate yourself around this and I can't unzip my skin color. I can't take it off and put it down or put another one and put it on. I can only be who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. And this is the battles I've had all the way through. It's been it's if I wasn't a part of it, if I wasn't living it, I said I can't. You cannot make this up. You cannot
Mhm.
make this up. The information my own family found out, and they're telling me they can't. I was like, wow,
That is
wow.
not only irresponsible of them, it's unethical. It's
Hmm.
unprofessional, it's unethical. I mean, where do we start with that one? Because what we see time and time again, my sister, is this failure to not just only protect women, but particularly not protect Black women, whether that was with historic sexual abuse,
Oh my
whether
God.
it's with rape, whether it's with our
It's
missing children.
serious. It is serious. Serious. You can't make it up. And you know what? This is, and listen, this is how, on that Monday, last Monday, my older daughter and I were saying, Mum, randomly, this is Monday. Mum, do you realize when kids are gone missing, you always hear that they've come back, but you never get the backdrop to what has happened.
That's it.
And I would be most interested to find out if any other parents has gone through gone, and I'm sure they have gone through this, because I was very, very fortunate. I was very well supported. My
Hmm.
family, my friends, everybody was behind this, and I put everything out. I thank everybody for all their support throughout all of this. I really do, because it really, that's what brought our children home, really it was. And
Hmm.
I do appreciate every single person, honestly, but it was
Tell us a
hard.
little bit about that, sis, what you guys actually did. You took control of the situation.
Yeah.
You didn't just sort
The
of wait.
first day we put them on social media. The first day we put them on social media, we got flyers, we put them on Snapchats, we put all our feelers out. In the background, out there for these two ladies, I tell you, out there, they was working from behind. They is who they knew was
Mhm.
helping out there in the universe. People from the other side of another country got involved out there. I'm telling you, and you know what? You do not know. You do not know who knows who until the time until you really need these people. You do not know.
Absolutely.
You really don't.
Absolutely.
You don't.
And sis, what was going through your mind when you saw the failings in the police and how they were handling your missing baby? Because like you said, you
I
don't care about all the other thousands at that point.
no,
You just want
no.
your baby home.
I just felt I was living in. Do you know when you feel like you're awake but you're not? It's like you're everybody. It was like
A
everybody,
waking nightmare.
right, and everybody we're all around you. Outside of all of this, everybody's moving on with their life, and I'm stuck in this nightmare. I'm so desperately trying to come out of.
Hmm.
So desperately
Hmm.
trying to. It. I can't express enough. I can't. I can't express enough.
Hmm.
I was amazed. And I wasn't even amazed, I wasn't even shocked, but I'm very intrigued to find out. And hasn't anybody ever questioned this?
Hmm.
Hasn't anybody ever questioned why you never find the backdrop, or you never meet a parent who child's gone? I would like to know their experience, especially with being a black child. And I tell you another thing, they don't push the black child's missing thing. Okay, like I said, like I said, if it was a white child, it wouldn't have gone like it did. It would have been over a lot quicker. I do believe that. And like I said, they didn't take it seriously, and they apologized.
Hmm.
So
That's really
I'm telling
significant.
you, I'm telling you, they've all the way through. Every single time they mess up, we're sorry. I said, I don't want to keep on hearing. And then he's coming on my phone with himself. Oh, we draw a line. I'm not drawing no line under nothing. I draw a line when I choose and when I feel that I'm satisfied to draw that line. And I'm not. I'm not. I feel it's time that we start. We need to have people on the ground to support these families when these children go missing. Make sure we've got laws for ourselves, right? And it's been adhered to for us, equal rights, just like everybody else, no matter what color our skin is. Yeah, support put in place. Stop allowing them to keep saying it's okay. Nothing comes out of it.
Mm-hmm. But that's up to
I'm
us,
very
isn't it? So
passionate.
we need to start
Yeah, as a
networking with each other,
right. And I will
speaking to
tell
each
you,
other.
and I'm going to say the other side of all of this. Okay, the other side of all of this is you have these posts about these children, and I'm gonna say, and I hope anybody don't get offended by what I'm gonna say. 99% of the negative comments and people going to my child's DM were from women, black women who say they're mothers. I think it's crazy. I think it is
Disgraceful.
crazy. My daughter's 18 years old. Okay, we had women coming in her DM. Oh, you're such a shitty sister. That's why she's gone away. You're such a. Let me tell you something. My child's first year of medicine, 18 years old. Don't chat to me. Yeah, don't chat to me. All of my kids got their own business, married. Don't talk to me. Don't know our story. These women chose to go in the inbox. Right? We've had people ransom. Asking for ransom. We've had it all.
Oh,
We've had it all.
the sick and the twisted. You know, it's the same
Oh, you don't
mindset, the
even
same pathology
understand.
that
Do you?
calls
Oh,
the victims on this page liars, and we're making it up, and you know, it's the same
they're
type of.
women.
They are women,
They
black
are women.
women. Yep.
Listen, black is crazy. They chose to go in her inbox and tell her she was a bad sister. Yeah, she's a bad sister. Do they know where she's coming from? Do they know where my child's coming from? Do they know where any of us is coming from? No, we're too judgmental. Why do we always hate reflections of ourselves?
This is part of the issue, my sister.
Why do we hate reflection of ours? Why are we always killing? Do we don't even know how powerful we are? All these people, young guys, young black men and women. Okay, if they know how powerful we are, the most powerful thing on this walking on this universe. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
check the levels of it all. We are the most powerful beings on this universe, but we just don't know because it's been years of brainwashing. But we can't keep on making an excuse. We can't keep on
Absolutely.
making an excuse, oh, slavery. We can't keep on making an excuse because if I'm awoken, you're awoken, there's so many people awoken. So why? What's going on with everybody else? Because they're still sitting down watching television. They're still sitting, not doing no research. They're still not opening their eyes and to disbelieve in what they've been told. But we've all been brainwashed from we've come out of the womb. And then the biggest
Mm-hmm.
brainwash is when they start getting into the school system. That's a massive brainwash.
100%. I agree with you, my
So,
sister.
yeah,
100%.
I'm
You know,
extremely
but that
passionate.
I feel that the
Hmm.
the denial that exists within our community, it plays out
Crazy.
so many different ways and strands, and it's part of not looking at our trauma is why we
Right.
behave in these dysfunctional ways, why we have these dysfunctional systems, you know.
Definitely.
But sis, take me through, like, now in hindsight, she's back, she's safe, we praise God for that. In hindsight, were there any red flags? You said to me that you didn't see anything prior to, but looking back now,
No, looking
reflecting,
back,
you never saw any red flags.
she was like, was wanted to stay in her room. Her
Mm-hmm.
moods had changed. Um, sleeping all the time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just not really wanting to interact with me or the rest of the family. Just really keeping herself to herself. That's what those things were. Looking back now. But like I said, at the time last week when this happened, I was completely blindsided because we'd spent the whole day together. We'd gone out, we've had a conversation. She was gonna do things that I've asked her to do. I was blindsided.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it coming. I never saw it coming. I didn't.
It's
I didn't see
crazy.
it coming. I didn't see it.
And you now believe that your daughter was groomed and
Yeah,
kidnapped. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we need to also have a lot of awareness raised up in the community around cyber grooming, you know, that whole world. That a lot of us are technophobes. We don't even know a TikTok from an Instagram in our generation. And I
Mm,
feel that some of the things that we need to upskill on, because there's a whole world opened up to our young people that is highly dubious and highly dysfunctional and decadent. You know, there's so many different strands. We need education for mothers and fathers around what these gangs that groom our children and kidnap our children, whether it's for selling drugs in county lines, or it's for their organs, or it's for child sexual exploitation to be shipped off to the Middle East or Eastern Europe, or whatever it is. We need a whole program around that, because it is reached to epidemic proportions. There are white vans driving around with Albanian nationals kidnapping our babies. But at the same time, we also need an introspection, I believe, my sister, where we need to look at ourselves, our parenting, how we do that. You know, it's all very well to blame the parents, and sometimes the parents are to blame. By all accounts, this young man also comes from a very highly dysfunctional family, by all accounts, right? So we have to kind of try and get to the bottom of all of that. But in terms of what do you feel that you could have done different, or parents can actually do and put in place, that might prevent this type of thing from happening to other young people?
Okay. I say this, only thing that check their devices often, because she was never allowed to have, only thing that she was allowed to have was WhatsApp and a phone, no Facebook, no Instagram, no nothing. I never knew that she had anything. That's my thing. So check their phones much more, check any devices that you're using. Always make sure that when they're coming from school, like I always do, how was your day? Make sure they have a voice. They can come and talk to you about anything or anything. Don't think that we were growing up in different times from them. But I think it's so important to talk to your child and make them know that, you was once their age, and know things, even if it's bad things that you've done, make sure they know that you're a human. Because sometimes these kids think we were born this size, but we're not. But it was just a different time. There was different dangers back then than what it is now. Social media is a very, very powerful and impressionable things on young people. Okay, it draws them. It can make them have eating disorders. It can make them want to be bigger than what they are, live this different life. It's like an imaginary world to them, and it's enticing. Even though you've given them all the structures that you thought that you need, sometimes it's not even about the parents. It's what they feel is outside. It's the outside.
Yep, I agree.
I'm saying that.
I've always tried to keep the balance with my children,
Yeah.
growing them up, between the old school disciplines, because I think some of that is lacking with the new school parenting,
Yeah.
frankly, and the new school parenting, in terms of giving them a voice, listening to them, trying to make that balance. And I do feel that that's the happy medium. But what I do think that's fundamental right now is that we need to start policing ourselves. Not saying that we're ruling
100%.
out the police, because they have a role, they have a function, and they're public servants who we pay for. So we need to somehow be able to interface with them so we can make changes, if that's possible. Sometimes I feel it isn't. It's such a hard uphill struggle, such an arduous task. But by the same token, we need to develop internal mechanisms whereby we start to police ourselves. And that's a good segue actually to bring on Sister Lasady. If you can stay right there for me, my sister Claudette. I'm going to mute you as well very quickly, sis, and we'll get back to you in a second. And also, if Brother Sheldon, who's due to come on, could actually join us in the studio as well, that would be amazing. So yes, Sister Lasady, welcome to Afua Speaks Community Conversations, my sister. So I know that you've been kind of looking at the case the last couple of days and kind of getting a grasp as to what's going on over here. Can you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us about Sisters of the Underground,
Yes.
and then we're going to kind of try and move into some of the parallels between what's going on with Black girls and women in the US and what's happening here in the UK as well.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you first for having me on this discussion. My name is Lasady Shakur. I am the founder and chairwoman of Sisters of the Underground, based here in the States. We are an all Black women's formation. We specialize in sex trafficking, domestic violence, and missing persons. We have our organization itself has been together for about a little over a year now. We've been working cases together. However, my personal experience is well over 20 years in the sex trafficking field. Some of the other women that, I partner with, they too have been certified to work in these fields as well. And they, have years and years of experience. Um, this is an ongoing problem. Missing persons of color, Black people specifically. And so we did come together and form what we call melanin alerts, which is our version of the Amber Alert system. You can find out more information on our website, sistersoftheunderground.com. But it's not to compete with the already in place system for reporting or getting active alerts for those that are missing. It's simply to say that we've had enough of our people not benefiting from the already established program. So why not have one specifically designed and catered to people of color?
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, sis.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by a
That's okay.
message from someone that I'm working a case with. I'm sorry. um, we are a small formation, of course, with us being so new, but we are looking to have different chapters across the states. We're looking to take the Melanin Alert system nationally. We don't want it to just be here something locally. We want it to be across the board
Mm-hmm.
because we know that the problem is not just local in the States. Case in point, the reason why we're here today discussing this subject. This is a very passionate subject of mine. And I got into the work that I do because I have two friends whose children were missing and victims of sex trafficking. And I felt so helpless not being able to provide more assistance other than support, being there
Mm-hmm.
for the parent, making sure they were taken care of. But I always felt like, why is there not more being done? Why is law enforcement kind of just taking the report and throwing it on the desk and forgetting about it? These are people, children. These are families that are victims of this. I feel as if more absolutely needs to be done. But at the same time, with me being in this field of work, it is very overwhelming. Every day I get messages from hundreds and hundreds of people who needs assistance, and it's not enough time or not enough people paying attention
Mm-hmm.
to this to help everyone. I applaud you for discussing this subject on your platform because a lot of people simply don't know the critical elements behind why so many people of color are coming up missing, and it
Absolutely.
starts with having this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sis. I'm going to stop you just for a second. We've got Brother Sheldon Thomas coming up, so I'm going to let him into the studio. Greetings, Brother Sheldon. How you doing? Blessed love.
Yeah, man, respect, yeah.
I didn't know. Can you actually hear backstage what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
you
could hear
still
every, I
can.
could hear
Okay.
what
All right.
Claudia
I
was
thought
saying,
I'd
and
bring
I
you
could
on
hear
anyway.
what
I'm going to mute you up for
Anastasia.
just a second. Sister
Yeah.
Mercedes telling us about what's happening. So yeah. Yeah, you were saying, my sister.
I'm sorry. So I was just saying, I think it just takes more people having the conversation. It takes more awareness behind what is going on. And it definitely takes more of people to be vigilant about this. A lot of people we hear, okay, it's so many Black people coming up missing, but not enough of us really know what to do in order to put a dent in those numbers. The
Mm-hmm.
numbers are definitely increasing. I mean, like I said, every day I get emails or messages, and I'm just one person. I can't cover every city and state everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I would absolutely love to be able to help everyone that reach out to me because being a parent, I couldn't even imagine not knowing where my child was or if they were safe. I have never experienced this personally with being a parent, but I
Mhm.
know several people that have, the sense of fear that a parent must have. But I think we just need to take a deep look into the where, the when, and the why our children are coming up missing. And I,
Mhm.
and I would start with online. This generation, the children that have access to online entertainment such as gaming systems, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, you name it. um, in particular, we actually have a campaign against a platform by the name of Roblox. I get
Mm.
tongue-tied. Roblox. I will say that over half of our cases have a direct connection to that gaming platform.
Oh
The
wow.
reason is because they have a built-in snap feature where people are going in posing to be children ages when they are adults. They're going in convincing your children to run away from home. They're going in building relationships with your children, which we call grooming in the work that I do. So
Mhm.
they may not try to get access directly to your child that first day. They are going to build and build a relationship with them until your child is so comfortable with them that they're going to take off from home, the safety of their home, to meet
Mhm.
these people. And we have to address the issue. Why does your child let his or her guard down so easily to go meet someone that they have never met before? It takes parents having conversations with their children. It takes a community to be on alert. If you see a child just out wandering, especially a small child, chances are that child is not authorized to be out on their own. So be diligent, have a conversation with that child until you could get some sort of law enforcement officer over there to safely return that child home. There's a multitude of things that we as adults can do to kind of bring these numbers down, because it's ridiculous at how fast that these numbers are increasing. We account for currently there's almost 550,000 people reported missing. These are just the ones that are reported. There's countless numbers of those that go unreported, because sometimes, especially with in a Hispanic community, they are afraid to report their child because they may
Mm.
be undocumented. In the Black family, they are afraid because of the relationship that they have with law enforcement. So we have
Mhm.
to get past those things and build ways for our people to reach out to other people in the community in order to get a successful amount of people returned home.
Mhm.
We cannot put all of the work on law enforcement, because again, the numbers are so high, they are stretched thin. They can only do so much. I know a lot of people say, well, why isn't law enforcement doing this? Well, okay, we know that they give bare minimum effort. What are
Mhm.
we going to do to kind of balance that out? We can't just keep using that as an excuse. We can't keep saying, okay, well, this is not happening, we're not getting that, and then we're not offering any solutions. I mean, because it's going to continue to get worse.
Mhm. So, in terms of how you exercise that with Sisters of the Underground, in fact, before you answer that question, what is the real, how does the demograph look in terms of who goes missing for child sexual exploitation? How many of that is something else? In England, we have something that's quite specific to England, I think, where it's called county lines. And for the American brothers and sisters that are watching, what that is where gangs from inner cities recruit young people, children, girls, whatever, to go out of the city into the counties, into the countryside almost, and sell drugs from houses that they've set up what they call trap houses. So I don't know if that same thing happens in the States. Do they move them out of state and go to sell drugs somewhere in an organized way? We would call that county lines in the UK. Is there anything that is comparable to that?
Yes, actually, those same thing. I mean, the terminology is a little different here in the States, but the concept absolutely is the
So,
same. We have about 10 states that we call hot zones. And these are the states where sex trafficking and missing persons are, the highest amount of numbers where people come up missing. Young girls, specifically, young Black girls, even more specific. They will, take the child, say, for instance, from California, which is in the top 5 of those that are missing and sex trafficked. They'll take them from California and move them to outside states, city and states such as Nevada, Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago. I mean, they're when they contact your child and they schedule a meetup, the chances that they're going to remain in the area or in that city and state alone is very slim. Their first priority is to get your child out of the city and state. Why? Because they know that that's where law enforcement or family and friends are going to focus on locating their loved one. So they try to remove them from that area to, lessen their chances of being caught.
And so we're going to hear from Brother Sheldon in a minute in terms of county lines and his expert knowledge around gang situations and how they're constructed and what have you. And I also want to speak to you again, Sister Claudette, in a second. But how do you actually, when you say that you deal with cases, how do you actually find young people when they go missing? How do you organize that? What are the kind of systems that you use?
So, Sisters of the Underground, we specialize in investigative work. We dig through people's social media. We ask specific questions of family and loved ones, friends. I mean, anyone that has had contact with the person that is missing, that's who we focus on. Once we have a general idea of where we want to centering in on a specific area, then we'll call in what we call our green light team, which is basically our security and those that are going to get out in the street and do armed foot patrol to locate those that we are searching for. The majority of our work though is definitely investigative. I can't really go into details about how
Of
we
course, no.
specifically to a case,
Yeah.
but I mean, we definitely dig a little deeper than law enforcement would have the time or capabilities of doing so.
And of course, they don't know the street. They
Absolutely.
police the streets, but they don't know the street. Only we
Or they
know.
don't know the community.
They don't know the community.
We know that people in the community are going to be your best bet at getting answers that you need because they live there. They know the people there. They know the nooks and crannies of the area, so they can get us kind of indoors that law enforcement really can't get in because no one really wants to share information with them. So I think that's what sets us apart from law enforcement.
Absolutely. And I feel it's something we definitely need over here. I'm we're going to have conversations about
Absolutely.
how we replicate your model
Yes.
in the UK as well. So just hold tight for me a minute, sister. And I want to hear from Brother Sheldon very quickly. Where are we? Blessed love, my brother. Thank you for coming on. His time is up. Afua Speaks Community Conversations to grace us with your knowledge, my brother. I know you're a veteran when it comes on to what you do. So if you want to introduce yourself to people that don't know who you are, and also to Sister Lasady, she's not that familiar with the landscape in the UK at the moment. So yeah.
My name is Sheldon Thomas, and I run a company called Gangs Line. And the company was started because I was a former gang member in the 1970s and 80s. And during that time period, we grew up in a very hostile environment in the UK, pretty much the same as what people in African Americans and Hispanics grow up in America, and how certain blacks are growing up in Brazil. Um, we were we were attacked, beaten up, set up on by police and the system from the age of 9. The first time I recalled being abused by a police officer, I was a 9-year-old young kid, small in stature, nothing like the size I am now, um, on my way to playing football, because back in those days, every black person in England who are of Caribbean descent, we wanted to be Brazilian because only Brazil had black players in their team. And it was the 1974 World Cup, and Brazil was defending their World Cup they had won in 1970 in Mexico. So we were on the way to the park, which was just across the road from my house. And on the way to the park, we was met with 2 police officers who then went on to call us every name you can think of, from Gollywog to Sambo to Coon. The N word wasn't used in the UK in the 1970s. It was Gollywog and Sambo and those kind of words.
Nigno.
Obviously,
Yeah.
obviously at 9, I didn't know what those words were because, which I will talk about later, but my mum and dad were very passive. I found growing up in my house, we grew up with West Indian parents who didn't know how to parent. Now, I know some people on here are going to be really upset, but if we're being truthful, anyone that's over the age of 40 will know that their parents were not right. It's not all, but a lot of them were not right. One of the reasons why is because when they grew up in the Caribbean in the 1930s and the 1940s, they were made to feel inferior in their own highlands because the white man, which was the British colony system and the French colony system, made anyone with dark skin feel inferior. So my dad, who grew up in the 30s in Jamaica, couldn't get a job in his own country. But what he didn't know was how this manipulation worked, because most West Indian parents who came over here in the 1940s and 50s didn't realize they were manipulated, because the economies of the Caribbean islands were completely being overrun and over controlled by Britain. So whilst people think slavery ended and colonialism ended, it didn't. All that happened with slavery was the chains came off. But economically, we were oppressed by Britain. So in the Caribbean, that oppression led to structural problems. That means the Caribbean islands couldn't build structurally, couldn't have any systems in place that will allow them to export, that will allow them to import. So it made most Caribbean feel there was no jobs in the Caribbean and let's go to England. So that was the manipulation. So we came to England because England made everyone in the Caribbean believe that your countries are not good enough. You come and help us. So it was a manipulation for us to come over here, build up the railway lines, build up the NHS and so forth. But in the meantime, they will still mistreat us. They will still ill treat us. I won't go in too much, but basically what made me become a gang member was my mum and dad's passiveness. My brother had been beaten up by 15 skinheads. His nose was broken, his jawbone was broken, his ribs was cracked. All of this took place whilst, and for Lasidi, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her name correctly. When I say skinheads, it's your version of the Aryan Brotherhood.
That's
So
right.
it's your version of the Aryan Brotherhood. So you can imagine 15 Aryan Brotherhood stamping in the face of one black person just because he was black. My brother ran off. My brother, who was watching him getting beaten up, ran off because um, the police was laughing. And so when my brother came back, I went with my brother to go and kill them. But my mum and dad stopped us and called the same police was watching it in killed to come and help us to find the people that did it, which didn't make no sense to me. And that's when I realized that my dad and mum were completely passive, were completely weak, and I decided that the best thing to do was for me to form a gang to defend myself against the National Front, like the Aryan Brotherhood. So when people talk about gangs in the UK, people need to understand where these gangs came from. If you look at the Bloods and the Crips, if you look at MS-13, most of these gangs were start for economic or racial problems. If you look up the Momos, the Momos of the 50s, they were started of economic and racial problems in America. When you look at the gangs in London, Manchester, and Birmingham, they were started because of racial problems. No, it didn't start because our parents were poor. It didn't start because we couldn't get jobs. It was started because we were treated like animals in the system. Now, where it went wrong, and this is why I'm on the show, is that it went wrong because we imploded. And when I say we imploded, what I'm trying to show you is that we allowed at that time the Jamaican gangs who were controlling the crack cocaine in America in the 80s, who came to England to bring the crack cocaine here, but they didn't bring the drugs into the country. It was the white organized criminal networks that used the Jamaican yardies to sell the drugs. So what you're talking about,
can I just sorry to cut you, brother, just on that point. It was that, but it was Whitehall that used the white indigenous organized criminals to then sell it to the yardies. And it was the Home Office that organised that influx of yardie drug dealers with Mikey. But there was a very fundamental reason for that, and that was because of the 80s uprisings with Broadwater Farm and Brixton. And they actually went to America to seek that type of advice from intelligence in America. What are we going to, they have experience of it through the civil rights struggle. And now during the 80s, 20 years later, 25 years later, Black British youth are now rising up in similar ways. So the advice, and this is fact, came from America through Scotland Yard to flood the community with guns and drugs. Because you can attest to that. We're of a similar generation, that prior to that, we smoked weed, we listened to reggae music, and there wasn't a lot of cocaine about. Suddenly there was this crack epidemic after the riots. So just to put that into context for some people, my brother, continue.
I can't comment on that. What I can comment on is what I know. And sure. being a high-profile gang member in the 80s, I was totally aware that the Jamaicans were being used, but not by Scotland Yard at that time. They were being used by white criminal organized. So in America, Lasidi, that would be your version of the mafia, your version of the cartel. So your version of the cartel was using a smaller outfit to distribute the drugs on mainland Britain. So we call it organized criminal networks, you call it cartels. These guys were all in their 30s and 40s. And they were not, they were from Islington, Essex. These are the areas these white brothers are from. And they had a plan. The plan was they formed a partnership with Pablo Escobar to bring cocaine via Europe into England. They were the very first, and this is the 18, this is called the Adams. The Adams was the very first white criminal outfit that made a link with Pablo Escobar in 1980. And by 1982, they'd already made 50 million pounds. And you can remember, if you go back to 1982, that's a lot of money. So what happened was they didn't want to sell drugs on mainland Britain. They just wanted you to buy the lump from them. So the Jamaicans came in. And so what people are talking about county lines is nonsense, because we were doing county lines from the 1980s. And Jamaicans were the ones that started it. Now, here's when I say we imploded, where it went wrong. So the Black British gangs, the first generation who were born to Jamaican parents or Caribbean parents, began to turn against the Jamaicans because we wanted to make more money. So this started the drugs war that if you go back to the 1980s, you will see that being played out in our reggae dancehall systems. So what happened was basically the wars between gangs in Britain and the gangs of the Jamaican heritage began to play out in the media, and the media began to say it was Jamaicans versus Jamaicans, but it wasn't. It was first generation young black men born to Caribbean parents who turned against the Jamaican people. And during that time period, and I'm not the only one, and it's not exclusive to me, none of my friends were shot dead. So when I say we imploded, I'm talking about we imploded from self-destructing ourselves. And where we should have been together, which was fighting against the system, fighting against racism, fighting against racist police officers, we stopped because we decided that after we burnt Brixton down in 1981, and we didn't get the answers we wanted, which was we wanted jobs, we wanted to be treated fairly. We didn't get the answers. That's why many of us turned to gangs. Now, my work around gangs and organized criminals links into missing children quite a lot, because at the moment the average the average stats of children missing for just normal circumstances is about 16 to 25,000 children per year. It's most probably a lot more than that, but like Lasadi said, these are the ones we know of. Okay, so we know there's a lot more. Now, when you look at that figure, then there's a new figure that's come out of children that are missing that are directly linked to street gangs, county lines, grooming, which is between 8 and 20,000. Okay, now remember what I'm telling you here. I am only telling you what we know of. There are plenty of children we don't know of. So you can imagine that figure. So we have two sets of figures here: missing children who go missing every year without fail, and children who are groomed and exploited into county lines, selling drugs into other cities. Now, the problem with that has been the problem in the Black community from day one. We in the Black community have not acknowledged the problems we have within our own situation.
Absolutely.
And so what happens was we go into a blame culture. We blame the white man for absolutely everything that's gone wrong. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want no one to misunderstand me. I am not sitting there saying that they are not to blame for certain things. Of course they are. No one's going to dispute that. But my argument is that how on earth have we got to this position where, if you look at the figures, and remember, these are the figures I know of, it's going to be far worse. How can 49% of Black women live in homes where there are no fathers for their children? How is that possible? How is that today, right now, we have 49% of our children who are going to school who have no father figures? Then we asked ourselves why our children are easily groomed. Because most of the groomers are men. And don't get me wrong, girls are grooming girls too, but I will go into that little bit. And what needs to happen is that we need to own up to the mess that we've allowed Black men to continue within our community. Now, I could talk about America because I did a lot of work with Jesse Jackson in America, in Washington, D.C., and the gangs out there. And it's 50 times worse in America. I can talk about the work, I can talk about Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, and Trinidad. I do work with those gang members out there. The figures are astounding. You've got to look at how can we, as a race of people, look at America, look at the Caribbean, and look back here, and we have the same problem, which is absent fathers. We have the same problem, absent fathers. Yet no one in those communities, whether it be in the Caribbean, whether it be in North America, wants to discuss those fundamental issues as to what's important. Remember this: if as a race of people, of the men are not around, how is a woman, a young girl, going to ever know what sort of man she should have if she doesn't already have that imprinted in her mindset? Because remember, young children from the age of 8 spend 6 hours a day on social media. 6 hours. Children from the age of 13 to 25 spend 9 hours a day on social media. When you look at our parenting program, you look at the parents in in this country. If you have a father at home, only 34 they spend 34 minutes with their children on average per day. If there is a mother at home, she spends 1 hour per day with their child. So who is raising our children? Social media.
Social
Now,
media.
if we do not understand that, we can't complain at the system, okay? Because it's our job. I mean, I liked what Claudette said about in making sure that you know what your children get up to. Now, I have 4 children. None of them has been arrested. None of them take drugs. They drink alcohol like normal people, but they've never even seen a police officer come to their door. Why? Because as a former gang member, I took responsibility that if I'm going to raise my kids, I have to change. It's no point me sitting there blaming the white man for this system. And remember, I did blame the white man. I burnt Brixton down with my gang. We burnt it down. So I did blame them. But the problem is that we have to grow up and realize actually, the truth of the matter is my dad was to blame for why I'm in this position. My dad didn't hug me. My dad didn't want me. He didn't spend any time with me. All he moaned about was how much everything was costing. Because at that time, I wanted to be a footballer. And in those days, you didn't have what you've got today. In order to be a footballer, you had to pay for the kit. And my mum paid for the kit and he went absolutely berserk. So the reason why I'm telling you that was to show you that parenting has to change if we want to stop grooming and exploitation. But in order to change that, we've got to educate boys and girls at a young age. That means at the age of 7. We can't wait till you're 13 to tell your child about a man. You've got to start educating the children so that when your daughter or your son gets to 15, they have an idea of the kind of person they want in their life. Because at this moment in time, we've got children walking around not having a clue. So the first brother that comes up to them and shows them any affirmation, they fall heads over heels over it. Because if you're going home to a home like I went to, where it was hostile, where your mum's telling you you're the devil, where your mum's saying, I wish you weren't born. That's the house I went home to. People need to understand that. And I'm working with gang members now who are going home to homes like that. So we've got to understand, if we want to stop grooming, missing children, exploitation, county lines and street gangs, the only people that can do it are parents.
Absolutely. It starts at home.
But brother, very quickly, can I cut you? What about that? Is a complete reality. I work with marginalized young people and vulnerable adults and what have you as well. So I'm very aware of all the issues surrounding that. And when it comes onto the crack epidemic and stuff like that, 30 years ago, we were the activists out on the street saying, stop selling this to your people. These young mothers that are being turned into crack whores and the children are being taken into care. In a generation, we're going to have a lot of angry young people who have grown up in these circumstances. And here we are. So, but what I want to look at is, what about when that child comes from a decent home, a good home, a nurturing home, and it is the peer pressure and the interface between those that weren't from that home and those that are, that is now dragging our children along with social media and that, you know, the strong peer pressure that's out there, because youth culture has become gang culture. If that makes sense. Or gang culture has become youth culture. In the same way that Black youth culture has become all youth culture. It's very similar.
There's no doubt that we've got on our books right now, 30% of the gang members we've got on our books come from better homes than me and you. I've got one kid who, she lives in Reading in a house that's worth well over £1 million. But you listen to what she says, why she went out with this gang member from Catford. She said she was dating the guy because her mum and dad don't spend any time with her. Now, she wants for nothing. She doesn't need no money. She don't need to sell drugs. But this is what she said. She was so bored at home because mum and dad's always working because they live in an expensive area. And she got her phone and played some YouTube videos, which were trap and drill music. On the videos she was listening to, she messaged them to say, oh, I like your music. Then the person in the video, or the person that was in that video, messaged her back. And within a minute, this is her words telling me, within a minute. And she said she can't even get her mum to speak to her in an hour. So when you look at children from middle-class background, whether they be black or white or Asian, or you look at kids from poor backgrounds, there are similar reasons why they join gangs. Because neglect is a powerful situation. Now, I'm not suggesting that parents deliberately neglect their children. I am not saying that.
That's what I was going to say. It's not always an elective neglect, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And what I find, it's like my mum and dad. They didn't purposely neglect me. But what I found out when I went to Jamaica was my dad was treated the same way he treated me. So he didn't break the cycle.
And also you mentioned, the single female household that is so epidemic in our community. And that also has a bearing in how little time Black women spend with their children in that regard. I don't always feel. I just want to hear from Claudette quickly. I don't know if you've got any questions for our panel, sister, or if you want to add some insight to that, because I know that your daughter comes from a very secure home, a very bountiful home. So I don't know if you want to reflect on anything that's been said, sis, or ask any questions. Oh, sister's not there. Hello? Sister Claudette? Oh, I think she probably is going to very quickly. Continue, my brother.
Yeah, so as I was saying is that I'm not sitting here suggesting that the police are not to blame in most of the cases, because they are. And we've got to, if somebody wrote in your chat, and we have to face the fact, the police are not going to change for us overnight. We burnt Brixton down, Tottenham got burnt down, Toxteth got burnt down, Moss Side got burnt down, St. Paul's got burnt down, and nothing changed. So what we've got to understand is that this battle that we're in against street gangs and missing children is around us having to look at ourselves as parents, whether we be single or not, and say, right, what more can we do to stop my child? Now, what me and my wife decided to do was, because of my background and the things that I was involved in and stuff like that, my wife decided that one of us must stay at home, because we lived in a gang neighborhood. And I know London is riddled with gang neighborhoods, so I'm not trying to make out like it's exclusive. London is riddled with gang neighborhoods, so I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But we lived in a very high-profile gang neighborhood. That means on every street in East London, every street has got a gang, okay? Now, what we thought of was, how are we going to raise a young Black boy in a gang neighborhood, even though I'm a former gang member and I've got the respect of the streets? You can speak to any of them, man, even though they're far younger than me. A lot of them would know me because their older brother or their older gang member knows who I am. Even with that respect, would not have stopped my son. So this is what me and my wife done. We decided that the best thing to do, and I know not a lot of parents can do this, is to move so that I can allow my child to breathe. Because let me tell you something, when you live in London and your child says, I'm going to go to, let's just say Waltham Forest, you can't sleep. Your son says, I'm going to go to Cricklewood, you can't sleep. So I don't want to be in a situation where I can't sleep. So I want to move into an area where my kid doesn't have to worry about, he's gone out now. I don't need to sit there thinking, oh my God, wonder what time he's going to get home. Where is he? Who is he hanging with? And those are the things you've got to put in place. Secondly, we need to start knowing the friends of our children. How can we be parents, but yet we didn't know, or we don't know, the brethren of our children? How is that possible? Why are we doing that? Why are we allowing young people into the lives of our children and we don't know their parents? We don't know where they come from. We don't know what issues they may have or may not have. What I'm trying to say is this: as parents, we've got to put aside our life now. We can't no longer chase that dream because we've now got kids. So now we've got to think, how can we bring up black kids in a safe environment, but still allow them to prosper and move forward and build? The only way to do that is invest. What do I mean by invest? We have to invest time into our children, because my mum and dad did not invest any time into me. Everything about them was what they sacrificed, and they made us know they sacrificed. And to me, investment is about not just listening to your children, but creating an environment by which your children can think about their future. Because when you look at these gang members, they only think of the next day. That's it. That's what gang members do. They think of the next day. And yes, they are smart. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of these gang members are so smart. They are. I'm not going to lie. I was one of them. That's why I survived several bullets. One just missed the side of my face. I survived it. And I didn't survive it on my own. I survived it through mentoring, which was Bernie Grant, Diane Abbott, Jesse Jackson. Those three people mentored me. I took me to America and I stayed at Jesse Jackson's house. So I got what a lot of black men will never get. A lot of black men will never get it. You know, Bernie Grant's not around at the moment, but Diane Abbott is. And these are the people, these are the things that saved me, because they made me realize, even though my mum and dad were not great parents, they made me realize that maybe if we could find adult men and women who can bring that balance to your life. Because I'll tell you something, I was definitely going down the path of my 9 friends who lost their lives. I was definitely going down that path. So for me, when we start looking at how do we fix this problem, we've got to fix ourselves. I don't know why we always want to blame everyone else, because I'm not saying in this particular situation where Claudette's concerned, the blame isn't on the police. Of course it is. No one ain't going to deny that. What I am saying is, if we want to prevent this happening to more children, more black children, then as parents, we've got to do better. Now, I know some people, I've been looking at the chat, they don't want to hear that. They want to continue to blame the world. Well, I brought 4 kids. I'm a former gang member. I had mental health problems. I used to carry a gun. I used to beat people up for no reason. I broke people's jawbones, snapped people's kneecaps. I did all of those stuff. And if I can raise 4 kids and be married and stay married, I do not know why we in this country cannot do much better. And we have to change that narrative. We can't allow the system to keep dictating to us that we can't succeed. We've got to look at our children as prime,
Now, sorry. I completely agree. Sorry to cut you. Sister Claudette is back with us.
Okay, cool.
So she's gonna contribute. But I totally agree with you. But I know that I moved out to the leafy hills of Hertfordshire for the same reasons.
Yeah.
I know all of my children's friends' parents, always have done. I'm Ina. And I always say to parents, don't be afraid to be Ina. You understand? None of my children have ever been allowed a password or a passcode on their phones or their devices. Why? Because when you're under my roof, I reserve the right to do my audits at any given moment. Yeah. So they're aware of all of this. As you know, my ex-partner was at one point chief advisor to Operation Trident, the gang task force. But it didn't stop our son joining a gang for a couple of years, leaving the leafy hills and going into Hackney and becoming a gang member. It really didn't stop it. So I'm very interested, like Claudette, whose daughter comes from a tight ship. How do we stop the grooming of our girls, this wanderlust where they're into the gangbanging boys, and maybe the wanderlust for our sons as well? Because, you know, I used to say to my son, you have been born with a silver spoon to an extent in your mouth. Why would you choose that lifestyle? Because it's not a black thing. If we look at our comparatives in the Caribbean, in Africa, where I've just come back from living for a whole year. Um, if you look at those examples there, it's an economic situation because middle class Caribbean or Jamaican people or families, young people, they don't choose to go down into Tivoli Gardens, for instance, and suddenly join the gang. They know their privilege. They're aware of where that takes them. They take their education, they use the privilege of the money that they have. They would never choose to be a gang member. But when you look at our inner cities in the West, in America, in the UK, parts of Europe, it's a really different model. Our young people are choosing this as a lifestyle. So I'm very interested in why that is, why our girls are so attracted to gang banging boys, why our boys want to be gang banging boys. What is
Social
it?
media. Social media is quite
I
clear.
believe that is to an extent, but I know that this has been going on before social media was a thing.
Before, but the difference is that when it was going on before social
Sorry,
media.
sorry. Can we, if we can just hear from Sister Claudette very
Oh,
quickly?
sorry.
She's been in the wings for a long time. Yes, sister.
Okay.
I don't know if you've got anything that you want to pick up on.
Sheldon, I think what you said, you hit the nail on the head. You said a lot of what is true. What is true. I feel that we we've got, we as parents, it's us, it's all down to us really, how we spend time with our children, you know, because we can give our kids laptops and, oh, go and do this or go and do that, instead of interacting with them and getting on the same level as that child. um as the gangbanging thing, it's social media is a big thing. They glorify it. It's in the music. It's in the way that they dress and how they are. Also, it's got a lot to do as well. If a parent, about the parents, if the dad's in and out of their life, because like you said, their dad is the first man that a young little girl, a baby, falls in love with. That's what it should be, but in reality, it's not sometimes, because they're not there to do that. So they go, you can love that child as much as you want, but you can't give them that love what they would want from a dad. I can only be a mother. I can't be a mother because that's humanly impossible. But you can only be a mother. There was a lot that, most of the things that I agree with you, and we need to stop making excuses about a white thing. We've got to set things up for ourselves because everybody else has done it, but we don't. We don't encourage, we don't help, we always try to pull each other down. We don't encourage anything, and if you do try to encourage things, you don't get the support. It's like everybody's just like, oh, I don't want to do that, or a fear of going forward and to be a part of something, a part of making a change for us. Because when I was growing up, all of our neighbors looked after us, people that don't even know us. Everybody, it was a village that brought us up, not just the parent. Everything was fragmented when people started moving out of areas. It all dispersed. You'll be in this country and you know all your family members here. Now you can be born, you don't know any of your family members here, but they're here. It's all changed. We've all it's all got broken down and lost because we've allowed it. We've allowed it as part of it as well.
I think, I'm sorry to cut you, sis. I think part of it has been the social care laws, you know,
Yes,
not being able to discipline our children. Although I've always
100%,
planted those and
100%.
worked my own system. But I think a lot of it has to do with that. A lot of the power was taken away from the parent.
Power was taken away from the parent, given to the child. Let's be real.
Yeah, they
Let's
have their
be
own
real.
phone line. This is why I
Right.
say I don't allow mine to have passcodes. They have their own phone line. They have their own life. They have their own world that we are
Separate
not
from the
party
family.
to. And that's
Right.
really dangerous.
Extremely, extremely.
And sis,
So
what do you think about Sister Lesadi's outfit, Sisters of the Underground?
it's we need that here. We do. We need so much things here, but we're a handful of people. And then if you do try to get together with another agency, somebody else as a black agency do, so why do we always have to fight? Why didn't it ever materialize? Why can't it be a building process? Why can't it unite us? Why can't we have
Yes.
passion like we'd have passion to go to a party? Why can't we have passion to make a change, not just for us, for our children, for our future black children to come. Why can't we do that?
I'm going to
And
be honest.
sis, that question, sorry, that question is a thread that runs through every single one of our issues, whether we're trying to set up an organization, whether we're trying to support another organization, no matter what we do, that is the thread that runs through it. Why can't we just get together? And what I'm saying, what I've always been saying, and what this platform really stands for and represents, is that we're not looking at our own trauma individually or collectively. And that trauma essentially comes from the plantation. A lot of the ills that we see, Sheldon talked about the dysfunctional homes, and what was brought over with his parents,
100%.
our parents, the Windrush generation. What we do on this platform is look even deeper into that and say, okay, these were people that were frustrated, as Sheldon pointed out, that came with inferiority complexes, that had inherited the wrath of slavery through their grandparents or great grandparents. And it came over here, but also the practices of the slave master in terms of incest and rape and early childhood trauma. It wasn't just the physical chastisement and abuse that we suffered. There was a lot else going on with the old Caribbean uncle that we're just looking at now, 40, 50 years later. Women are starting to speak out. Boys are starting to speak out, less than women, but they're still speaking. And we're looking at where those traumas come from, because if we can connect that to what you were saying, Sheldon, around how, when you looked at the timeline and the trajectory of how we got to be in the gang situation that we are, these are individuals that were largely raped back in the Caribbean, and the women that grew these boys had secrets that were never told about their fathers and their uncles. We're dealing with mass trauma. Unless we start to unmask that layer by layer, we're always going to be dealing with the symptoms. We're never going to be dealing with the cause. And I think that's what we don't talk about. We don't have that conversation. It's so taboo in our community. What is the trauma? Individually, each and every one of us has suffered trauma, even if we were never sexually abused or ill-treated. And it was normalized in our community to be beaten quite severely. It was very normal. We'd even go to school and compare belt marks and, see who got the worst welt that day in our generation. And so therefore we grew quite angry. And then drugs were thrown into the mix, and gangs were thrown into the mix, and sabotage and infiltration into our organizations were thrown into the mix. We need to get to the heart of it.
Well,
I was going to say to what Claudette was going to say quickly. When Claudette
okay, and then Sister Sadie afterwards. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Sadie. I'm just going to make.
You're fine. Go ahead, sir.
The point that Claudette made about why can't we move forward? Why we're not driving? When I was in America and in the Caribbean, I spoke in several churches, and let me tell you what the outcome is. At the end of that service, you always have a queue of people wanting to come up to know more about you. In those queues, in Washington, D.C. and New York, were black women, not a single man. When I was in the Caribbean, in Barbados and Jamaica, the same thing. When I come to England, I'm here now, I speak in hundreds of churches. It's just black women. Let me tell you what the problem is. And I know a lot of men are going to be offended, but that's because they don't want to hear the truth. The fact is, the reason why we're struggling, because it's black women that is pushing the agenda all the time, and there are no black men to be seen, right? You go into any Pentecostal church, and any Pentecostal church, whether it be in the Caribbean or in America or in the UK, 70% of the congregation are black women, and only 10 or 15% are black men. That's just one area. That's if you believe in Christianity. Now, if you look at the way when things are going wrong in our society, who is at the forefront of fighting that message? You might find the odd black man, but it's mostly black women. So we have to question, how have we got into a position where black women are literally doing everything in our society, bringing us kids up, bringing the kids to school, looking after the kids, doing all of that? Where are the black men? Now, I speak with a lot of black men, and I know they get angry because they don't want to hear the truth. Okay, I had one young guy, he's dead now. Okay, the dad lived, I think, just a mile down the road. I said to the dad, listen, take the boy to school, just begin to build a relationship with him. Just try to build. Don't worry about no money. Just build a relationship. He didn't want to know. Before you know it, the boy dead from a gang shooting. Okay. Now, the reason I've got more stories, but I don't want to do that because it's not about that, and I want Lasady to come in. The point, what I'm saying is this: we've got to change the narrative around our black men and stop being afraid to challenging black men, because we are afraid. We're so afraid because, oh, my brother doesn't look after his kids, or my uncle don't look after his kids, so I'm not going to say that. We've got to stop that. Because let me tell you something now. Everyone in this audience, I know, they know somebody that don't look after their kids, but they're their brethren. They're their brethren. They sit down with them and they're brethren. I don't have any friends that is in my life or in my kids' life whose dad don't look after their kids. I won't have it, because I don't want my son to get a girl and get married and think that he can do the same to that girl because his dad does it. No. So my problem here is this, to answer Claudette's question before Lasidi comes in: black men have to step up.
Yep. And sorry, just very quickly, Lasadi, just to bring you up to speed with where we're at. That's part of our campaign as well, is that when we first took on Vincent Rat on this platform, and this is one of the biggest gangsters in the community's ever known, and also one of the big terrorizers of the community. But it was black women that actually broke a 40-year spell or hold that he had over our community. It was black women that stood up. It was us on this platform. We called him out for what he was. We spoke the truth of what he was. There was an outpouring, and then we brought a march to the very heart of this man's community, and there's absolutely nothing he could do about it. The spell has now been broken. But like brother said, so many brethren around him, so many men around him from our community that knew what was going on, that saw and witnessed what was happening, and felt too afraid to stand up to him. Is it that we've been broken? Is it that black men have been broken then? But anyway, that's the rhetorical question. My sister, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I think we can go back as far as slavery, the beginning and the ending. We are the only people that have never been compensated for being enslaved. And I'm not necessarily talking about monetary compensation. We have never been provided resources to get over the trauma of that. We have never been provided therapy or anything that can help substantiate some of that trauma that we have experienced. A lot of us do not realize that that trauma is also passed down from generation to generation. It may not present itself as the trauma that the previous generation had, but it is definitely something that is masked and passed down generation to generation. Once we identify that a lot of us have not actually addressed the trauma within each other, then we're always going to be at what I call a standstill. We're never going to progress unless enough of us identify that trauma, do something about it, and offer an alternative. A lot of people, again, brother, you kind of brought up the point where enough of the blame game, and I'm with you 1,000%. I'm tired of hearing the white man is responsible for this and the white man is responsible for that. It's enough of us in high position, monetary position, that can offer assistance to those that are not in those positions and kind of overturn some of this. It's just not enough of us willing to accept the idea of it. It's not enough of us wanting to overturn that. We want to continue to sit on our thumbs and, okay, we accept this behavior because they have some type of trauma. Okay, well, if you're not offering an alternative, then how do you suggest that we as a people progress from that? You can't complain, you can't identify something and not offer an alternative, or we're always going to be in the position that we're in. Another thing, we too over here, you kind of mentioned about the county lines. That is exactly what I meant by how we call pimps over here. They get your children, they groom them, they get them strung out on drugs, and then they get them into other areas of, dangerous situations. I am a mother of four. None of my children have been addicted to drugs. None of them have been the victim of, the street life. And I also am a single parent home. I raised three boys, three black men and one black girl. They're all above, well, they're 19 to 26. I've been very fortunate to be able to instill in them some things that I saw growing up so that they can make better decisions. I wasn't a perfect child. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, from where Brother Jesse Jackson is from. So I'm sure you know quite well the different struggles Chicago has. And, once I realized that I was going to be raising black men, I made the decision to leave Chicago because I felt that it was too much right outside their doorstep to kind of lure them into that street life. And so I wanted to give them a fighting chance. And I did, move my family to Nevada. And it was one of the best decisions that I could have made as a parent, because I saw the reoccurrence of single parent homes. I saw the reoccurrence of gang life right outside your door. I saw the reoccurrence of drugs, being done in front of small children, prostitution, it was just so many things that I think, and I'll blame myself. A lot of us, we see all of those things, and our first inclination is to pick up and run and try to get as far away from that problem as possible. Instead, we need to look inside the community and offer alternatives. You know, I say it was the best decision I could have made to raise my children. That was the best decision then. Do I wish I would have stayed and done things a little different? Absolutely. But I didn't. So I can't keep focusing on the past. I can only focus on what I am doing now. And that is offering alternatives, teaching people about different things. I can't dwell on something that I wish I would have done better. All I can do is focus on the here and now. Also, a lot of people have come to the conclusion that just because a child is raised in a single parent home, they are grown to be a statistic. When my children, I have three that went to college. One is doing in a trade, and the other two are in physical therapy, things like that. But we have to stop putting these titles on our children. We have to stop telling them the direction we as parents want them to go, because that's another trauma that we're instilling on them. They're trying so hard to live up to what our expectations are that they can't form their own expectations for their lives. And I think that also plays a part in why so many people kind of steer down the wrong path. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. I think so many people, we want to keeping up with the Joneses. I'm sorry. We want to keep up with the Joneses. We want our children to be a doctor. We want them to be this. We want them to be that. And while all that is good careers, why not teach your children to pick up some sort of trade, something that they can live off for the rest of their lives? Learn electricity, how to fix electricity, learn how to work on air conditioning systems, things like that, something that will benefit them, where if they go into the world and they're losing these jobs that let's be honest, the white man kind of dominated. They learned everything from our ancestors. They took it and they monetized it, and now they dominate those fields. Why not teach our children how to learn those things and reverse that and try to dominate some of those fields themselves. We
Mhm.
we get too caught up in trying to do this, do that, when none of us are really thinking what is for the greater good. And I think that is a big issue within the Black community. I think trying to compete trying to compete against one another also plays a part in that. And we know that that began in slavery as well. They had our people, fighting against each other back in slavery, which one can outdo this one in the field. And none of that benefit the people that were competing. It all benefited who? So here, current day and time, competing against one Black man or a Black woman against a Black woman, who does that really benefit? Because you're not out there, you're not building corporations, you're not building jobs, you're not doing this and that. All you're competing against is who has the most designer items or who lives in the bigger house. None of that benefits your people as a whole. We are selfish people in current day time, and it's not good for any of us. Our children are suffering. We suffer watching the crack cocaine pandemic go on. I mean, when are we going to say enough is enough? We know the problems. We know we can call them out. Everybody in the world can say they have a family member that was a victim of drugs. Everyone know that they can say people that have went to prison. We know people that children are coming up missing. Well, we have those conversations and nobody is actually offering something as a resolution to it. And I'm rambling. So,
No,
what
thank you
point
for
that
that,
I want
sis.
to make though is we're I think I'm not sure if brother mentioned it or Sister Afua. One of you said that the Black men are not doing their part. I somewhat disagree. I think that we have some Black men doing all that they can. I just don't think that we have enough that are doing what they can. And how do we reach those that are not putting in the work in their communities, in their family? And it starts with accountability. It starts with each person making sure that their friend or their family member is accountable for what they're doing in their lives. And I applaud you for not wanting anyone in your circle and around your children that are not on the same level mindset that you are. That is what I mean by accountability.
Mm-hmm.
We have to hold people accountable for their actions, or it's just going to be a downward spiral.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. I guess my next question is do any of you have any kind of toolkit advice for Sister Claudette, for mothers like her, about prevention, about coping with the aftermath? Because one thing that she mentioned as well is that we're never actually told the story, and maybe Sheldon, you could shed some light on that. We're never told the story of where these children have been once they come home. The police hide quite a lot from the parents. They exclude the parents. And for me, and then obviously they're gone after that. So the parent is left to pick up the pieces. And I'm very aware of that feeling of when a child comes home from an episode like that, and how much you've suddenly become a stranger with your child, and all of the issues that play out post the disappearance. So I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit, and yeah, see if there's any toolkit
Well,
advice that you could give to
my
people.
my advice on prevention, first and foremost, is that I think Claudette said some of the stuff already, but I'll just repeat for the benefit of people who might have just joined. I think um, investment into your child, which I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about time. Okay. Now, this applies to whether you're married, single, or you just got a partner. This is not exclusive to anyone. This is all about Black people at this moment in time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying white people don't have the same problems, but we're discussing particularly here around Black kids. And my thing is that I don't think as parents, and it's not anyone's fault, it's because the system we've grown up is in this society forces people to spend more time at work than they do at home. So this is why I'll go into way me and my wife worked it out. My wife decided to leave her job. We both had very good jobs because I'm quite educated. When I came back from America, Jesse Jackson told me to go to university and get my qualification. So I did the right thing by listening to Diane Abbott, Jesse Jackson, and Bernie Grant. So I've got a degree in statistics. I have a diploma in economics. I have a diploma in accountancy. I have a diploma in business. I've got a diploma. I've got quite a lot of qualifications. So we had a good job. So my wife stayed at home. That's one thing, because if you pay for a childminder, you don't know what values that childminder is going to come with. So that's one thing. Now, I know not a lot of parents can afford to do that because cutting half of your salary, but this is what we decided. We decided to live broke. So I came from a glamorous gangster lifestyle into poverty because I wanted my kids to feel loved at home. See, the love is the key of the everything. I know we're talking about building us economically. I know we're talking about that, but everything does not matter if there's no love. Literally, it doesn't matter. And at the moment, I see young black boys walking on the streets looking angry. Okay, not every young black boy, not every, but a vast majority of them. They are angry. And when I engage with them, they don't even know why they're angry. Now, been a few who have actually said to me, they're angry because they want to hurt their dad, right? I've actually had that. When I'm not sure for people who are familiar, but I do a lot of work on behalf of the government in prisons. And the reason why the government has contracted me is because I developed a program called Inspire Me, which is inspire, motivate, and equip. I teach young men how to navigate society exactly how Lasard mentioned it, which is vocational. Look at trade, look at economics, look at things that will benefit the community and not just yourself. So that program the government loved. So that I'm in the prisons dealing with this. And in the prisons, I have young men, black young men, telling me when they come out, they're going to kill their dads or kill their stepdad. Now, when you have that kind of situation being told to you on a regular basis when I do my prison visits, it's not a coincidence. We now got to look at what is it about these young men. And when I got to the bottom of it, they didn't feel loved at home. That is the biggest problem we have in our society. We don't love. That's the reason why we can't. If you listen to what that's the reason why we can't work with each other. There's no love. That when I grew up in the 70s, we had love. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we all agreed on one thing, that the system was structurally racist. So
we had a common enemy.
We had a common denominator. And the problem with us today, we're fragmented. We don't have one common core approach. That's the reason why economically we are still weak. That's the reason why, because we don't have the love. Like, we don't know how to love each other without falling in love. Does that make sense in what I just said? We can't seem to build a relationship. So, for instance, Lasard's got a business in America where she helps to find missing children. I have a business there. I can love, let's say, Lasard, because the business she has is a very good business. And so I should be in a position of self-worth where I can go to Lasard and build a partnership without feeling that she's trying to take over or she feels I'm trying to take over. And the problem with us as black people, we don't have that love. We don't have it. And I know we want to kid ourselves. We want to go around the world and make out. We don't have it. I've gone to the Caribbean myself, and I stood in Tivoli myself. And I was told by the Don of Tivoli, it's time to leave because we're going to do gunplay. Every night in Tivoli, when I was in Jamaica, was a shootout. How can that be a normal way of life? And when I spoke to them about what is it about that group over there, what they didn't like? The brother could not even tell me what the reason was. And so that's the reason why I feel that if we're to move forward, love has got to be at the center of it. Prevention, we've got to look at our parenting skill. It doesn't matter whether you're single or not. Knowing your child's friends, knowing what your child gets up to on social media. Invest time in your child. Yes, you might not like going to the park, but your boy or son might want to play football. Okay, you might not like football. Go down there. I've got pictures of I put up, and I try to encourage more black men. I took my daughter to play football because she said to me, "Dad, I want to play football." Right? And at that time, not a lot of women were playing football. Cut a long story short, she started to play for West Ham, which is now in the Premiership. Okay, my daughter. The only reason why my daughter stopped is because we moved into a safer neighborhood because West Ham was in East London, right? So she stopped. Where is she now? At university, just finishing. I have three daughters. One is a school teacher, one is a psychologist who runs her practice, and all three work for the business. And what I'm saying is that it came at a cost, and the cost was me and my wife had to live on the breadline because we realized money doesn't mean nothing if your son or daughter goes off with some guy and that guy does whatever he needs to do. So we realized the best thing to do was for me and my wife to suffer economically for 10 years so that we can reap the benefits today. And now I'm a consultant to several government departments. I am no more brighter than anyone else on this listening on this platform, but I was able to take the advice of Jesse Jackson, Diane Abbott, and Bernie Grant 35 years ago to say to me, if you want to change your society, you want to change black men, you've got to change yourself. And that's what I did. I didn't sit there anymore. Don't get me wrong. Of course, I sit on the TV and every now and then the white man comes up and says something and he jars my head in. Yes, that does happen. But I am nowhere like that person before because I realize we, as black people, have got to make the change. If you want structural racism to change, then we've got to be united. Structural racism cannot change when we're so fragmented.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I sit in terms of I'm fed up. For 30 odd years, I've been an activist about one issue or another in the black community. Like yourself, Sheldon, I run prison programs. I've provided the violence reduction training across the London estate and so on. I used to provide the Black Self-Development Program inside Brixton Prison that was exclusive for black men. And that was all about not just vocational skills, but also how, like you say, how to navigate the landscape. Like, I had a model that was around how do you convert your skills as a gang member and make that commercial, so because as somebody who shots, you're really a trader. That's what you are. You will understand the markets really, really easily. And it was that kind of thing. We can do that in small pockets. But what I'm interested in is what does that look like as a mass community effort? Because sometimes I feel after 30 odd years of doing this, that we preach to the converted. Somebody made a comment earlier on, and I did at the beginning as well, is that our numbers are down today. We've got 362 in the audience. We normally have between 400 to 600 in the audience, depending. But that's when we're dealing with the contentious issues of paedophiles and who's being called out next. We love drama. We love to be able to look at all the drama and point fingers at each other. But the minute we start trying to talk about solutions, the numbers will drop because nobody's interested anymore. But that's okay. A cohort of 300 and just gone up to 370 people in the room is a decent cohort within the community. If this was a dance, it would be Wham. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, I'm more interested in quality rather than quantity. And I want to now have conversations about what does this look like? Sheldon, you're doing your bit. Sister Lasady, you're doing your bit. Afua was doing her bit. Claudette as a mother is doing her bit. How do we now homogenize and come together to make this an impactful effort? because sometimes, I'm sure you feel this yourself, Sheldon, you're touching just the tip of the iceberg most of the time. You know, Lesedi, you mentioned onslaught, the onslaught that you felt once you started your program. I felt that once I started this. There is not a single day when my DMs isn't full of women that have been sexually abused that want to tell their stories. And it's overwhelming with just one or two of us doing the same work. I'm going to add someone called, I don't know if it's the same Claudette, if you're on a different device or a different Claudette. Also, somebody called Sally tried to join quite a bit earlier on. If you want to try and join again, it is an open panel. Let me see if this is a different Claudette. Oh,
I'm still here.
Oh, are you the same Claudette on two different devices?
It's the same one. Hold on.
Oh, okay. So it's not a different person. Sally, if you want to come back on, I saw you waiting in the studio, but I was waiting for my moment, and then you cut yourself off. I removed one of you, Claudette. Oh, you're gone. That's good. Yeah, so I'm very interested in the practicalities of that, and you know, how we bring that together. I'm working with partners at the moment around, perhaps, you know, do we have a Black women's conference, which hasn't been done in the UK yet? Do we put out programs, outreach programs, which has all been done before? And to some extent, gangs and the youth are a bit fed up of that. They don't want any more outreach programs. They don't even really want a solution anymore. I feel sometimes like there's an element that is unreachable, and that we need to kind of figure out a strategy how to overcome that. But what does that look like on the ground? You know, how can we help parents like Claudette, any parent?
One of the things I think needs to happen is parents need to turn up when the schools are advertising my programs, not just my programs, anyone that does anything to do with missing children, you know, gangs and all of that. Those programs have been put up. The government paid us to go into, I think, maybe 1,000 schools in London, okay? And every school we went into, so there's obviously 1,000 kids in each school, right? And we're only looking at particular year groups, not necessarily year 7 yet. We're looking at year 9, 10, and 11, okay? So we're looking at possibly 600 parents, okay? How much you think turned up? 3. So part of the problem is parents are not turning up to programs that can actually help them to understand today's children, okay? Because if you're not going to turn up when a school is trying to help you, so they bring somebody in like myself to educate you around when your child goes missing, county lines, gangs, and all of that stuff, that will put you in a better place to understanding what your child could get up to. Because we're not suggesting that every children is like this, but it is good to get every parent to understand it, just in case it does happen to them. Because we're not suggesting this happens to all the parents, it just doesn't. What we're saying is, if parents do not want to learn about what's going on in the world, in terms of in the school when their kids are at school, then there's not much else we can do, because it's not like the government's going to pay me to do an advert on TV, because they're not going to do that, because that costs millions. But what they will do is pay me to go into the schools. And this is part of the problem. The other thing we do is that when we get referrals from the police, from the NHS and the youth offending team, we then contact the parents. And even then, even though their kids are in trouble, they still don't want to take part in understanding how they can change things. So sometimes we go around saying, oh, what can we do? I'm going to be honest, yeah? And I know some people are not going to like this. We, as Black people, are our own worst enemy.
Absolutely.
I was in America. I wasn't born in America. My cousins live in America. And I was invited by Jesse Jackson to go and visit a crack city in Washington, D.C. And he asked me one question. He said, who do you blame for this? Now, when he took me to this underground, you could smell the underground at least 400 yards before you got there. When I went there, I never saw one white face. I never saw one Hispanic. They were all African Americans, and they were grown people shaking, telling you they want to suck your, and I won't say that live on the air. I saw blue babies. That was the first time I saw babies that were meant to be brown. They were blue because they were born to crackhead parents, crackhead mother. I saw mothers sleeping in their own feces. Okay. People need to understand we are our own worst enemy. Don't get me wrong. I know the CIA's got a lot to do with what happened in America. We all know that. I know that. I'm not stupid, right? But here's where the problem is. Like those rappers in America who are taking recording contracts, who are making records about killing people and shooting and stabbing and all of that, they are not forced to take that contract.
They are
They
not.
take it. And it's the same with the crackhead, the same with the smoking the drugs. I smoked weed, okay, for years, for 27 years. I never once took cocaine because when we were young, cocaine was known as a white man's drug and black people didn't do that. Now we do all sorts of things. Now, I'm not suggesting taking drugs is good. I'm just trying to show you how we are our own worst enemy. Yes, most of it is to do with structure because obviously if we can't prosper in society, we're going to end up doing things that are not legal. I understand that. But at what point as black people do we say, you know what? Let's work together and build the economy like the Jews, like the Polish people, like the Lithuanians, like those people. Why is it we can't come together, build our economy so that we're not in a place where we take drugs? We're not in a place where we have to sign a recording deal and the person who's white is telling you he wants you to make a record or make an album that cusses black women or cusses women and talks about selling drugs. So we've got to look at ourselves, and if we want to prevent things and ask ourselves as parents, are you prepared to sacrifice? Are you
Absolutely.
prepared to sacrifice your money? You know, the car I drove a car. I used to drive expensive cars. When we stopped working, I ended up driving my wife's sister's car that was red and it was at least 35 years old. It already gone round the clock and you can smell the petrol inside of the car. That's what I drove so that I could make sure my kids had a better love, feel more loved in the home than worried about me about what and
Your
material.
status.
Can I just come in there because I totally understand and can identify with those types of sacrifices. But what I'm always really acutely aware of is, the exposure that you had, exposure that I had. Maybe there are things in Sister Lasadie's life that exposed her in a positive way. We were able to educate ourselves. You understand? We were able to elevate above because we're all from those streets, if you like. We all came from the same community, the same loins. So, and there's nothing superior about us aside from the fact that there were factors involved that exposed us in different ways and enabled us not to become a part of that. So I'm really interested in how it is that we can bridge that gap, because when we deal with the underbelly, if you like you mentioned the crack den that you went into, and I too went on expeditions, crack expeditions, if you like, in the early 90s to America for learning and training because we didn't know what we were dealing with. We had to go to America because it hit us sort of 10, 15 years later. And the only model was there. And I was always really fearful that it would get to the state that it was in America. I don't believe we've ever really got quite to what you've described, like places. I was in New York, places like Co-op City, and it was literally like from the movies. And although we've become pretty bad with the crack epidemic, I don't feel that we've really got there. I think we've got there in other ways. So my thing is, sorry, I'm going to bring Chan on in a second. Chan has just joined, so I'll bring you on in a second, Chan. So my thing is, because if we can bring it back to what we're talking about tonight, you've described very eloquently and very informatively, Sheldon, how Black men and boys have got to the point that they're at in terms of the gangs and the journey and whatever. But from our standpoint as Black women and girls, these are the same people that are enacting the trauma on us. We're being raped by them, groomed by them, being taken out of our homes by them, going missing at their hands. Do you understand? So that's what I'm interested in. How do we bridge the gap in that regard? Do you understand? How do we deal with that disparity? How do we deal with that disparity? Because at the same time, I know as a Black woman, I'm the mother for a 26-year-old son. I have 3 girls on top of that, 34, 22, and just 11. That's another whole story how the 11-year-old came about so late. But I'm having to now, she's just about to start year 7 in September. And when I look at where the 34-year-old was when she started year 7 and where my 11-year-old is now, I'm filled with nothing but dread and fear. It was never a consideration that I might have to pick up my child from year 7. Year 7, or first years as we called it, was your moment of independence. It's when you were allowed to go home from school alone and go on the bus and all of these things. And I've seen more and more parents still picking up their children in year 8. Now, I'm a little bit against that because I believe that if you wrap them in too much cotton wool, once they are exposed, they become highly vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that you have to have a degree of exposure, of streetwiseness, especially with the environments that some of us live in. So, how do we navigate all of that? What do we really do to make an impact? How do we keep our children safe from these white van men, for instance? Put us aside for a minute. And I'm sure Sister Claudette can attest to the fact that when a child is missing from your home, you can't sleep at night. Every time you shut your eyes, you see the worst set of nightmares going through your mind. I know I did when my daughter eloped, but I didn't know she'd eloped. I didn't know if she'd been murdered. I didn't know if it was some sort of Jack the Ripper character that had taken her. I didn't know if she was being gang raped somewhere. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw a horror movie, images of what I might find, Sister Claudette, you were going to say, I don't know if you can relate to that.
Exactly, because all day it's really, really bad. You're really heightened, but at night time you have all sorts of imagination. Because I think in where we are in London, at night times a completely different set of people come out, and I know that she's not streetwise. I had all these different imaginations. You don't sleep and you're trying to do all sorts of things to stop your brain racing, and then you're sitting down and discussing with your family, and then they bring in the worst, and it was just unbelievable. It was just every single day that she didn't come home, it was horrible.
When we were talking, I was kind of relating to you and saying, that the little sleep that you might have got, the 1 or 2 hours when you were forced to go and lay down, but the minute you open your eyes and realize it was daylight, a new level of fear would come, because you'd realize there's another day passed or another night that's passed and your child still isn't back. That in itself is traumatic. It's a trauma. That in itself is traumatic. How do we put in place things? And I guess it's a bit of a rhetorical question. People can pick up if they need to, but how do we navigate all of that, and how do we protect ourselves from ourselves? How do we bridge the gap or the disparity between Black men and Black women? Because Black women are very invested as mothers, as sisters, as girlfriends, as wives, in protecting Black men, in doing for Black men. Brother Sheldon mentioned the fact that we are now carrying the mantle and flying the flag. But it's the same Black men that are perpetrating on us, whether that's beating us in relationships, sexually abusing us or our children, our girls, whatever. So I'm very interested in kind of opening out that side of the discussion before we leave. There's somebody called Chan here. Someone's got their device on as well, listening to the live. If you can mute that up for me, because otherwise we're going to get an echo. Chan, welcome, Chan. I don't know who's listening to the live while being on the stream, but can you please mute up? Someone's got their device on as well, listening to
I believe it might be Brother Ronnie.
Ronnie, are you there? Oh, he's gone. Can we hear from Chan? You've come to the live, Chan. Why are you here? I think Chan's got a bad connection, actually. So yeah, just to put that kind of out there, anybody can contribute.
I think that part of it is that comes back down to we don't have the respect. Black men don't have the respect for black women the way we did 50 years ago. Now, I know things were different because we had a united message, which was obviously stemming from the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and then the Black Panther movement, that kind of stuff. And I just think we don't have that respect. That's the reason why when you look at these rappers in America and some of these trap and drill artists, it's easy for them to disrespect women. They go on record. They actually go on record, and their videos are sexualized. Their videos are nasty. Yet these recording companies like Interscope and Aftermath and Warner Brothers and Epic still put it out there. If this was any other community, you think they would do that? If this was a white community, you think they would allow that record to come out like that? No, they wouldn't. And this is why when I was in America, I did a radio show with Ice Cube because I was on the same record label as him. And I totally disagreed with everything he said around the word, the N-word, because he was using the N-word. And what really upset me about Ice Cube is that he was not even a real gangster. He wasn't a gang member. I was. And yet I'm trying to tell him that I don't want to use the N-word. Why do you want to use it? And there's this theory in America amongst the rappers. When I spoke to Ice Cube, they were saying using the N-word takes the power away from the white man.
I don't agree with that.
I cannot believe you would come out with such a load of rubbish. The comment of that, and that's when I realized America is messed up, because they actually believe that. These rappers believe that by using the N-word, we've got the power. Because Ice Cube saying a white man can't come to him now and say nigger, they can't use that. But I'm saying, but they do in America. I've been in America where you can walk in a mile down the road and you end up in an all-white neighborhood and you get killed. And then you can walk down another part of that road and it's an Hispanic neighborhood, because they don't have unity in America like what they keep projecting they do. They don't have that. Okay. I was in America and I saw racism, which was worse than the apartheid in South Africa. I saw it with my own eyes. Jesse Jackson showed it to me. So we've got to answer your question. To answer your question, we have to respect our women more. We've got to love our women more, and we don't. And I'm not suggesting that every black man falls into this negativity. No. What I am saying is because of social media, it causes more young people to grow up disrespecting women. So it makes, when it comes to these partnership work, like with yourself or with, difficult, because there's a bit of mistrust there from the beginning in the back of our minds. And what I feel we have to do is begin to understand how, if we're to move forward economically, we've got to accept we can't do it one without the other. Black women can't do it without black men, and black men can't do it without black women. Economics is something that's going to take all of us. That's the reason why I did an economics diploma, because I feel that the qualifications we get at university are not relative to helping us as a community. We get degrees that are worthless to anything. You can't build nothing with it. And my thing is that if we want to work together as black men and black women, black men must begin to respect black women. And unfortunately, I know some people don't like what I'm saying. That's the fact. I saw it in America. I see it in the Caribbean. I see it back here.
But there's a fundamental, brother, I think that we're not really, there's a missing component here. And yes, they do. But if you have a black young boy whose father is absent, whose mother is damaged, whether through early childhood trauma, lifestyle, the treatment she received from that boy's father. And therefore her anger now is spilling out on that young black boy. And she doesn't speak life into that black boy.
Yeah.
You know, he's constantly told that he's worthless. He's just like he's no good daddy. Whatever it is, there's no life being, and he's now very angry. And also, the lifestyle of that woman has not been honorable. She doesn't prepare a meal for him when he comes home from school. She doesn't help him with his homework. She brings a string of men into the house that are abusive. She raves all day and spends her money on lace front wigs and nails instead of educating and nourishing that boy. What happens when he becomes a man? He will never respect a black woman, because his example and his model of that black woman has been this dysfunctional mother. But then the beginning of that cycle is that mother grew up the way she was because she was raped by her father. And we could just keep going on. So I'm interested in breaking the cycle. And I think in all the deliberations that I've had, you know, we don't have a single workable model that will be impactful enough to deal with all those issues. And that's what I'm interested in trying to develop, I think.
I mean, to be honest,
sorry, just very quickly, what you said was fundamental, and is that black women can't do it without black men, and black men can't do it without black women. But what I think is a real big prohibitor of that is the fact that black men are abusing black women and black women are abusing black boys. And the cycles can. So how are we ever going to be working?
But you've hit the nail, which is you've got to break the cycle, and we've got to look at the attachment theory and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, and the problem with us, a lot of us are not educated to that level to understand the theories behind raising children. Okay, and because we don't understand the theories behind race, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we live by theories. I'm just saying there are models out there that can help some of us to understand what it means. Now, we know from the attachment theory between the ages of 0 to 5 are the most important years of every single child on planet Earth. And they said, this is what the attachment theory says. If by the age of 5, you haven't built a proper emotional relationship with your child, it becomes fundamentally more difficult as they get older. And what happens is, because that emotional growth was not there in the beginning, the child then grows their own emotions based on their basic knowledge of not understanding emotions at all. And that's how they get groomed into gangs and street gangs. If we're looking at ways to bridge the gap between black men and black women, we've got to understand the attachment theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how we can apply those theories in our lives as African Caribbean men and women, or African American men and women. We have to apply those theories whilst not forgetting slavery and colonialism, but actually using slavery and colonialism as a way to glue us together even more, because fundamentally the biggest picture has to be love and economics. Okay, because we're trying to build economics without love, which is ridiculous. And you can't build anything without the foundation set in love. You cannot. If you look at Castro did when he got rid of America and the mafia out of Cuba, he made them believe he was on their side. But whilst he was doing that, he was going underground and uniting his people with passion and love to say, these people are ripping us off, they're controlling us, and we don't want them. And that's how he got rid of America and the mafia out of Cuba. And we don't have those unity amongst us. We don't have enough of us who are gelling us together so that we can look at dealing with structural racism. And that's why when you ask that question, you're going to keep asking that question, because we're not going to address it. Because I'm reading on some of what's been written here, and there are people writing some nonsense on here because they don't want to hear the truth. They want to sit and blame the white man. And if you're going to do that, look where it's got us. Look where that has got us. And this is what Jesse Jackson taught me before I go off. Yeah. Jesse Jackson said to me when I was with him in 1989, he said to me, we're going to have a black president one day. This was in 1989. I looked at Bernie Grant, I looked at Diane Abbott, and we said, no way is that going to happen. Now, this is why Jesse Jackson told me that. He said, if we continue to keep looking for blame for them, we'll never shape ourselves. So what he was saying to me was that they began to believe in themselves more. And that was where Barack Obama come through. Now, the rest is history. The point I'm making here is this. We can become Prime Minister of England. We can become, have our own building trade. We can become a professor. We can become a scientist. But the problem with us is that we're allowing the world to condition us into sports, into basketball, into athletics, into football, into rapping, because those things don't control countries.
Exactly.
And so we have to understand, if we're to win the war, we have to control the economics. And the economics is what controls countries. We can talk all day about LeBron James having 300 million in the bank, or Shaquille O'Neal has got 400 million in the bank. That means nothing if you're looking at terms of helping build the black community. Yes, Shaquille is a good man. He does a lot of work in the charity. So does LeBron James. But because there's only few of them doing it, it makes that work that much harder. And the point that Lasad made at the beginning about if everyone's contributed doing it, if every one of us all got up and said, you know what, I'm not sure if I can do what Sheldon does, but I'm going to try and do something else.
My bit.
I can. Yeah. And that's the way we begin to gel. I listen to Lasad. I know when I go to America, I'm going to look my girl up. I'm going to definitely look my girl up. That's if they let me in the country, because I'm not vaccinated. So I'm not quite sure. But if they do let me in,
I know they ain't letting me in. I'm what they might call a felon.
So if they do decide to let me in, I'm not afraid to look up my girl, because I want to learn from her about what she does and how I could help her. And if she comes to England, I'd be glad for her to come and look us up and say, all right, let's sit down and reason. The problem with us is that...
Sorry, before you say that, I think it's incumbent on us to organise ourselves to bring sister over. That's what I think should be happening. But we can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah. So basically, without going on, because I know times is important, but my thing is this: if we're going to bridge the gap between black men and black women,
yes,
we've got to start looking at ourselves more and start being honest and truthful. I am not afraid of telling a black man, if you're not looking after your children, don't chat to me. I'm not interested. Because
or if you prefer to check young girls on the road,
yeah,
can't come around it. This is the type of accountability that we need.
Exactly. You know, and that's another thing. And the reason why we've got people who would disagree with that is because they're doing it themselves.
Yes.
They're doing it themselves. They get offended. They get offended when you raise that up because, oh, we're not all black men. Let me tell you something. I've been around a lot longer than some of these people who's been writing on here. And I am telling you, we are in a problem.
Yeah.
As
you've said that, brother, I was approached just a few weeks ago when I ran a particular story around rape, a certain brother that was allegedly had raped another sister. And I was contacted by somebody who is at the moment, I think, relatively well-known, high-profile activist, black male in our black African male, actually, in our community. And he was, although he was in agreement with the fact that this man should be exposed and he was clearly lying and whatever, he was more concerned with what he felt I was doing was deconstructing the black male image. And he was more concerned with the fact that I was showing black men in a bad light. And I said to him, but you should be separating yourself from that type of individual as black man. We should not accept them in our community as brothers. This cannot work anymore. You know, that's your concern should be, why is it that these men are bringing down the image of black men? Not me as a woman, by speaking the truth, bring down the image of black men. And I think that's a fundamental difference. is that when black men, like you talked about accountability, when black men are able to look to their brethren and say, it ain't okay, and you can't par with us anymore if you're going to behave in this manner, I think we're going to see significant changes if that becomes a trend. And it isn't a trend. It's
it's
quite
not
the
a
opposite.
trend.
On
It's
the
not,
contrary.
what you just described is what happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
Black men turning a blind eye to
Yeah.
what other black men do. Every
Or
single,
knocking dominoes with them,
you
or
know,
having a
and
drink or
they're
whatever.
more concerned about, oh, you're exposing us to the white man. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's continue to allow you to do what you're doing, and let's continue to watch young men grow up to repeat what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day we might actually consider, because at this moment in time, I did a TV show a few years ago. No, I did it a long time ago when I came back from America. I was the first person to actually say we're going to have 10-year-olds selling drugs. That program I made won documentary of the year 1991. No one believed me in the black community and said I was exaggerating. Now we've got 10-year-olds selling drugs.
Yep.
And I said that was going to happen because the black community at the time in 1991 refused to acknowledge we have a problem with the Jamaican gangs. They refused to acknowledge it. They didn't want to know it because all they wanted to do was blame the racist police officers. And don't get me wrong, the police were racist. But right now we had a significant problem, which was blacks killing black in the community. Now it's gone to the point where 60% of all murders in London are done by black people on black people. 60%. How can that be possible when we only make up 13% of the population of London? How is that possible?
It's an epidemic, my brother.
And it's an epidemic because people, men in our community, are sitting down, not wanting to acknowledge this, and is sitting down saying, what is the government doing? Let's have a look at a child leaving the family home with a knife. How can you blame Boris for that? How on earth do you blame Biden for a young man in Chicago who picks up a semi-automatic gun to go and gun down somebody in the street? How do you blame him for that? Where do we take that responsibility? Who gave him the gun? Who gave the young person the knife? Because it wasn't Biden and it wasn't Boris. Okay, and we've got to take a note. When I got my first gun, it was a 9mm. I was about 14 or 15 years old. The Prime Minister didn't give it to me. It was no Prime Minister gave it to me. So what people need to understand is that at what point do we take responsibility for the actions of our children? Where do we take it? So to answer your question, it's not an easy answer. There's not a quick answer to it, Afua. There's not going to be one, because until black men can understand the importance of working with our black sisters so that we can build love and economics, we are not going to go. We're going to have this discussion next year.
Yeah. And we've been having it, haven't we? Absolutely. So I'm going to hear from Brother Ronnie, who's just joined us, Sister Claudette, and then Sister Lesady, and we'll start to wrap up, if that's okay with everybody. Brother Ronnie, prayer warrior. Can you hear me, brother? What's going on? Ronnie's always
Yes,
got.
hi.
Oh,
Can
you
you hear
are.
me?
Are you there? I can hear you, Ronnie. I can hear you.
Yeah, you know what I want to say, yeah? I think what we need to do, we need to have some bottle and start grassing up some of these drug dealers.
You can turn your camera on. Did you know your camera's off, or you wanted it off?
Yeah, I know.
That's cool.
Yeah, evening everyone. I think what we need to do, we need to start grassing up these drug dealers. Yeah, that's what I think we need to do. We need to
Yeah.
we need to start grassing up these drug dealers, because a lot of us know who they are. A lot of our kids are selling drugs, and we're not dealing with the issue. We're just talking.
Bruv, can you mute the live? I think you've got it on another device. It's creating a feedback.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Alf?
I can. We can hear you, but you need. Can you mute your other device, because we can hear the live in the background, and it's creating a feedback. I think you've got another
Sorry.
device with the live running, right?
Right, I've just lost with this technology. You know how
No,
it go
just
already.
if you could
Sorry.
just go to the actual live and mute it and continue speaking to us from what you're on now. Ralph, can you mute the live? I think you've got it on. No, you've muted the wrong one, Ronnie. Yeah, keep this one on and mute the other one.
You know what? This is so frustrating. Forgive me, man. Me just lost.
Don't
I
worry,
really
don't
lost.
worry.
Sorry.
You know what? We'll work with it, Ronnie. Don't worry. We'll have to work with it. I think are you on one device, on one on the stream and
Yeah.
one on the YouTube? So you got to get to the YouTube page and mute that, and then come back
All
to
right.
this.
Listen.
But it's fine.
Can you hear what I'm saying?
I can hear what you're saying. It's just
All
that you
right.
had a bit
This
of a
is the
feedback.
point. Look,
Yeah.
Sheldon. Big respect to you, sir.
No, you muted the wrong one, Ronnie.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can hear you. Thank you for that, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir.
Boy, I'm a lost, you know. I'm really, really sorry, man.
We can
This
hear
is so
you, Ronnie.
frustrating.
Go to.
All right. Big respect, Mr. Sheldon. Listen. I was a single parent. I was a single parent for about 13 years. All right, and I had to go to court and win custody over my son. My son now is 25 years old, right? So the sad thing is what the mother tried to do. She wanted to destroy me from the connection with me and my son. But my son found out the truth in the end. And I think what a lot of people do, what a lot of women do, they rubbish off the man and bring down the man and destroy the man. And to me, I just find that so wrong. I've been in prison and I'm working now with people in prisons. I'm with a group called Blast where we help guys coming out, big up the bigger man them. And I find that a lot of guys, what they're finding out now, that the woman has rubbish off the man. So that means the youth grow up, don't want to know the dad because of what the mum has done.
There's that element too.
But I just want to bring back to the business with the drugs, yeah? We need to grass up the man them who is selling the drugs. Because we all know the man them who's doing it. When I tell you I hate drugs, I hate it because I see what it does to the community. I see what it does to the men and to the women. How can you have my sister them I sell themselves for drugs and crack and we're not doing nothing about it? We need to stop talking and we need to grass up the man them. We need to do that and stop the talking because we can do it.
Yeah, we can. But you see,
Right?
the problem.
Another
with
thing,
that-
yeah? Look at my sister Alf Rose, right? She's backing up everybody and talking on behalf of everybody. But yet she's putting her life on the line for everybody. If she can do it, we can do it. If she can do it and helping all these women who have been raped and things like that, molested, but don't want to show their face, but Alf's putting her face online. So that means if anything happens, it's coming back to her. We should be standing with her. We need to grass up the man them. We need to mash up the drug business because no matter what, yeah, if the white man them is selling the drugs to us, we need to say no. I don't care because you know what? We're taking the drugs. Wherever the drugs is coming from, we're taking it from the people them and we're selling it. We need
And
to
it's
say
the- it's-
no.
sorry
If
to
we
cut you,
want to
Ronnie, but
stand
it's the
and
drugs.
grow some balls, sorry about my language, that's what we need to do. We need to grass up the man them and say enough is enough and get back our people them.
Blessed for that, Ronnie. You're right because the fix for the trauma is the drugs. So when you move from the trauma, you move into the drug taking and the drug dealing, and it just kind of explodes outwards from there, or implodes inwards rather from there. So there's that element too. And you also mentioned, as I was talking about earlier, the errant black mother, who decides that, albeit that she had a great time making this baby with this man, that it's her right to actually govern whether or not that child has a father or not. I've never been in agreement with that. And all these people that say because I'm calling out dysfunctional rapist perpetrator of black men, I hate black men. They don't know about my past in championing black men, and when black women were telling me that I wasn't fair to them, because my
Alf,
narrative at that point was about the
could
error
I
of
just
black
say one
mother.
more thing, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm listening, Ronnie.
Right. You know what? We need God in our lives. I'm hearing all this talk, yeah? All these things, all the things what we're hearing is pure evil. Evil and destroying our black community. We need God in our lives. That's what we need. And God is, I don't hear no God in none of this. It's just self, and pure evilness and wickedness. Pure evil and wickedness. Can't we just get a grip and know what we're hearing and what we're seeing? It's
And
just
get
evilness. Mr. Shoulder mentioned that black people is more the killing of black. How the hell do we get this far? Come on, man. We need to come back to God. Man, man. Look, you know what? This is so.
But you know
It
that
hurt
even
me,
that
man.
concept in itself, Ronnie, is so fragmented along with everything else in our community. Some of us are
Me
Muslim.
gone anywhere. Listen,
Yeah.
thank you for my little two pieces, yeah?
All right,
Thank
Ronnie.
you.
Blessed love for that, my brother. Blessed love. Yeah, my brother Ronnie's a very passionate prayer warrior, and I know that he was praying heavily, Claudette, for your girl. You know, um, but yeah, you know, all of the above is what I would have to say. Is that yeah, I'm a person who is spiritual. I believe in the Most High. I do feel that element of it, that old school element of it, is lacking. We were all grown up, regardless of the dysfunctions, to love God.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, in our community, we were all grown up under that, and that's actually missing. So that's one element of it. You know, everything Sheldon said. Lesedi, do you want to give us your last word?
Yes, I actually something the brother Ronnie spoke on where he said the black woman is not holding up the black man. I believe that's paraphrasing to the extent of what he said. I don't think that it's a case of the black woman necessarily not respecting the black man or holding him up. I think it's everything to do with the relationship that the black man and the black woman has current day. It is not the same as the generation of my parents, the civil rights movement era. I think right now, today, the reason the relationship between the black man and the black woman is so damaged is because the black woman feels as if the black man has let her down. They have not held up their end, they have not fulfilled their contract, if you will, when it comes to what it is that we need from them to raise our families, to be providers, to be in the community and to hold each other accountable. And so a lot of the black women have taken it upon themselves to kind of step in the role of the black men, if you will. I absolutely don't agree with that, but I don't believe that we've had a choice. There, and I'm speaking specifically on single parent homes. We do not choose to be single parents. Black women do not want to be single parents. I can assure you that. But it's everything to do with we really didn't have a choice. So now we have to be somewhat of a father, some be a mother, be the provider, be the protector when that is not our role. We are not supposed to do it all on our own. It's supposed to be a combined effort. And because we have had to do it all on our own, then some of the trauma of having to do it all on our own is passed down to our children, passed down to our daughters, and those daughters are passing it down, so forth and so forth. And so the root of the problem is to repair the relationship, like Brother Sheldon said, repair the relationship between the black man and the black woman. And I guarantee you that we will start seeing results. Until that happens, we're always going to be at a standstill. There's never going to be any progression because one, one person or the Black woman can't do it all. The Black man cannot do it all. We're not designed to do it all. We're designed to balance one another. And I don't think a lot of people understand that that balance is critical. It's the root for everything. It's the root for restructuring and rebuilding our communities. It's the root of raising our children. It's the root of subsiding some of this. You know, the relationship that a child has with their parent also plays a role into a lot of why our children have become victims of a lot of these heinous things that we're discussing, far as getting into drugs, being victims of sex trafficking, being, just being out in the streets because there is something not being discussed or addressed at home. It all starts at home. It all starts at home. And if I'm a parent not really worried about my child, just okay, he or she is out of my face for a minute or two, then everything is okay. I have time to breathe, where we're open the door for outsiders to come in and manipulate our children. Again, I'm a firm believer, and it takes the Black man and the Black woman to do this. We cannot each do it separately. We have to do it together. Or, we're always going to play the blame game. The Black woman blames the Black man for the condition that we're in. The Black man blames the Black woman. They believe that the woman is the first teacher of the child. We can only teach that child so much. I raised 3 Black men, but I absolutely was not capable of teaching them how to be true men. I had to look outside of the home. I had to get them in community programs. I had to get them around men that, can offer them substance as far as how to navigate this cruel world as being a Black man. There's some things I can't teach a man, just like my daughter's dad can't teach her about being a Black woman. And we have to let all of that go. Just like I'm stumbling over my words, but the what I'm saying is, until that relationship is repaired, until the home structure is repaired, then we can have this conversation 1,000 times and we're still gonna continue to have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we, as commentators, if you like, we have a civic duty to continue to push those programs into the community, continue to facilitate and deliver them. We haven't said enough, I think, about the impact of the absent father on the Black daughter. We talk a lot about the impact of the absent Black father on the Black boy, but when it comes on to the daughter and the absence of a father figure, and how she then relates that back to the men that she meets around her, and is more open to grooming because she's looking for that love somewhere else. Now that's a massive, massive thing, and I think it contributes quite heavily to whether or not a young girl is easily groomed or not. Because if she has a firm father figure, I never forget when my 34-year-old was younger. She'd met a yardie guy on the road. She was 15 and the guy was 24. She did give him her number, but I think in her mind it was just kind of a friendship thing or whatever. But he was on the phone trying to groom her. It was discovered very quickly for a number of reasons. One, because we had an extended family structure, so we were all at my parents' house on a Sunday. She had hidden herself in the dining room to speak to this guy on the phone, and it was my sister's husband that discovered it, and the whole family got involved.
Right. It takes a village. It takes a village.
My mom, her grandparents, her uncles, her aunties, everybody was ringing this guy and giving him heat and smoke. I left him for a few days, and then I called this guy and I said to him, one of the reasons that her father gives her everything she needs is so that people like you can't come along and take her off her A game. And he was going, you can depend upon your daughter. She said she just want a friend. She won't go to university. These were the things and conversations that she was having with him. Naive, yes. But there was a difference in terms of the structure around that child, whether or not that man got to lure her away or not. And I'm not saying that it was foolproof. She still gave him her number. What would have happened if my brother-in-law had not discovered her on the phone? Could it have gone further? Do you know what I mean? But I'm just sort of trying to highlight the fact that we put things in place that will minimize the impact. It doesn't always stop it. You know, it's not always a preventative measure. I don't think anyone can fully legislate for that, because with the best laid home and the best laid plans and the most supportive family structure, young people still go astray. And that's an element, I think, that we need to try and find a way to control, because we need to stand up against social media, subliminal programming from whatever media, from the TV and so on. So we've got a massive mammoth task in trying to combat some of these problems, you know. Just before Sister Claudette, who is Annie Parks' moderator? Because she's chatting a load of rubbish right now, and I want to know, Sister Claudette, do you know anybody called Annie Parks? Because she seems to want to have a massive comment about the circumstances surrounding your daughter. She's chatting rubbish.
I don't know her. No, I don't.
No, so you know what?
I can't see no comments. So no, I'm not watching.
I'm not going to highlight the comment. Moderators, if you can see Annie Parks' comment about the voice note she's received, can you put her in timeout, please? Because we're not going to tolerate any foolishness tonight. You know, you've gone to great lengths, sister, to highlight to us how much you were trolled, and how much.
Yes. And again, it's always another woman.
And there's still a woman here.
This is what
we don't care about the info that you've got coming to you, Annie Parks, on social media. This is the mother of the missing girl that is in the studio with us tonight. Show some damn respect for your sister and keep your little sasa that's going around on WhatsApp to yourself. That's what I will tell you. Before I get into Afua in the bad breed mode. Go ahead, my sister. I cannot tolerate things like that.
Again, this is I always find we always look for the worst. We always try and expose. We always look for the worst. Like I said, I don't know who this lady is. I know the journey that I traveled. The people around us know the journey I travel. So I don't know who she is. She doesn't know me. So I care zero about what she's got to say. But what I will say is this is the whole problem. So I don't know if she was listening. This is why we're in a situation, people like her, situation like this. She could have come, she could find us or find you. But she wants to go and put this all over. I don't know who she is. Okay. And she needs to get alive and find things to do. Turn it around the opposite way, be more productive. That's all she needs to do.
Yeah. But you know, like you said, it's people like her, because
people like her you're going into
in terms of building and all the positive impact that we've had.
And it's the same thing Sheldon said.
It's back to what Brother Ronnie was saying. It isn't just the drug dealers. We need to kind of root and branch our bad apples and deal with that and find ways of dealing with that that are effective. You know,
but this has been going on for some time now, because you know, we've got to face the fact. It's back to what we was talking about earlier. If we're going to find a solution, which is what you're asking, this is part of the problem, because you're going to always find this a problem. When I did my first speech in Brixton Town Hall around the gang situation, okay, that was back before I went to America in 1989. Several Rasta men, because I was a Rasta at that time, picked me up off the stage and flung me outside Brixton Town Hall and said to me, I don't know what I'm talking about. There's no gangs, okay? So when you see comments like this is why I was saying how difficult the question you're asking is, because half of us don't care enough. Then you've got another section of us who want to gossip. And then you've got the few, which is us, trying to do something constructive in terms of getting our young people to the next level and stuff like that. But you'll always find it's a black person that will pull you down. When I was in America, I learned about what happened to Marcus Garvey. Okay, W.E. Du Bois
Yep.
did not like Marcus Garvey to begin with and was pulling him down. Okay, and it wasn't until when Marcus Garvey left America, W.E. Du Bois began to understand the
That's right.
importance of Marcus Garvey.
Mhm.
But it was the FBI that paid a member of Marcus Garvey's Black Star Liner team
That's
to
right.
pull him down. It's the
Mhm.
same FBI that paid for Malcolm X to be killed by
Yep.
using the Muslims to kill their own people.
J.
So
Edgar Hoover.
we've got to understand the mindset of how we are in this world. This is why I was saying it's important, one, we get knowledge that builds society. Now, media studies, history, none of that can build society, but economics, accountancy, business, and in terms of building our society economically and knowing God is important. We have got to understand, in order to do that, we have got to get rid of some of the people in our own community. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the sound of that, right? And that's where the problem lies. We're going to have to purge our own community.
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
can't live like the way we're living. I was in America recently, a couple of years back, two years. And on the weekend, we were there for like a whole week, me and my wife and kids. And I engage gang members. I just do it naturally. But anyway, on this day, I didn't get out of my bed early enough from the hotel. The news came on. 175 black young people were shot dead in one weekend in Chicago.
Yeah.
When I spoke to black people, none of them bat an eyelid. Now, I know I was in New York and the shooting took place in Chicago, but that's not the point. And what I'm saying is, we've come to a point where we're desensitized to black men. We're desensitized to black men killing, black boys killing black boys. We're desensitized to black girls being groomed by black boys and exploited. We're desensitized to absent fathers. We're desensitized. We just go on and live. And what I have learned over life is that if you want to change society, we have to do what Castro did. We have to build from the underground so that we can purge out society. Now, a lot of people don't know about Castro, really. They only know what the West tells them.
Absolutely.
I know more about Castro than what they've been taught in school, okay? Right? And Che Guevara and all of these other players, and Nkrumah and all of these people. And what we have to understand, we cannot continue the way we are. Because all you're going to do is keep doing this show. Lasard's going to keep doing what she's doing. I'm going to keep doing, and there's going to be no solution in sight.
Absolutely.
And so what we have to do, and I agree with Ronnie here, is that we have to begin to action stuff. Now, I know some people don't like what Ronnie said in terms of grassing drug dealers up, but I think we've got no choice now. I don't see we have a choice anymore, because we can't have 10-year-olds selling drugs. I'm sorry. I cannot. I don't care whether we're in Chicago, whether we're in New York or Boston or one of those cities where guns are normal, and Kingston, Jamaica. We cannot have any more children selling drugs. We cannot have little schoolgirls being manipulated by big men. We cannot. We have got to now be brave enough, courageous enough to say, you know what, we're turning you in, bruv.
Yes.
We're not having it, bruv. We're turning you in. End of story. What? You're grooming that child? We're turning you in. You're selling drugs? We're turning you in.
But that has to come from the mothers. There are mothers that accept the spoils of the drug deal.
Yeah.
The boy comes in and gives their mother the money from the drug dealing. Do you know what I mean? That's, you couldn't do that in an old school house. When your mom was coming from church. She called the police herself.
Yeah.
Well, and if we are prone against calling the police. We need to have something established
There
within
you
our
go.
own communities.
Yes.
Police our own communities.
Yes.
That the Black Panthers started, they disagree what was going on
Yep.
in their community. So
Yep.
what did they do? They started
Yep.
getting out there patrolling their own neighborhoods. Black Wall Street,
Yep.
they had their own police force within
Mm-hmm.
their area. Those are the things that we need to get back to. But
Yep.
I will also point to the fact that look what happened with Huey P. Newton when he formed the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
It was somebody that looked like him that infiltrated it and went in and helped destroy it.
Absolutely.
Why was that so easily done? Why was it so easily done? It's always one of us that looks like us that comes in and give them, and I'm talking about the white people, an upper hand to
Mm-hmm.
put us right back in a position that we are fighting for.
100%. And I think
Fighting
I'm from the loins of Dr. Khalid Mohammed, my mentor, my teacher. And that his solutions was of the most radical kind. But I'm completely I'm completely down with every single one of his solutions, especially when it comes to rooting out the bag of wire.
I'm a huge supporter of Khalid Muhammad. I'm a huge supporter of Dr. Malik Zulu Shabazz. I'm a huge supporter of those past and present that are trying to offer a solution. But at the same time, I would say that those people that are from the past got us to right now today. It is up to us that are here current time to pick up the baton and take us further. And we can't do that because we're so busy trying to one up each other. We're so busy trying to, my idea is better than this person idea, instead of combining those ideas and elevating ourselves to a higher level. It's absolutely ridiculous that current day time we do not have the relationship that is necessary to advance our people. The people from the Panthers generation, civil rights generation, the Harriet Tubman, who my organization is role model behind. Why were they able to be so successful back then and had none of the resources that we have today? There's absolutely no reason we should be in the position that we're in with the amount of resources we have, with the amount of people that are in position to help provide some of those resources, whether it's financially, spiritually, or anything economically. Brother, it's a rapper out in Atlanta, I believe his name is Big Mike. He saw what the economic system was doing to the Black community. What did he do? Go out and open his own bank. We got people that's willing to form a current day time Tulsa, but it's always someone that, because it wasn't their idea, they're going to get out and spew hatred in it, put and tear it down. And I think that is the most ridiculous thing that we as a people can do to one another. Is mind blowing. I don't even know how to explain it.
You know what, Lesedi? It's when I look at the American model and then our model, I feel like you guys have a little bit more autonomy to be creative and to kind of determine what your redemption looks like. In England, it's sewn up. There's no way that we could have an armed patrol. Sisters of the Underground UK would have to be unarmed, because not even the police carry guns over here as routine. It's a small island as opposed to a huge continent that you're on. Right. So we're on a small island in the middle of the North Sea with out of a population of about around 60 to 65 million. 60, I believe that we're little more than 2 million in number.
But can I just say this though, Afua? Can I just say this though? You've just described England, okay, with a population of 67 million, but it was that country that controlled the world.
Absolutely.
So we have to understand, if a small country like England can control the world, What did they use? Which was manipulation and all the other stuff and all of that. The point what I'm saying here is it doesn't matter about the size. What it comes down to is that what we're talking about here is what was the difference between Harriet Tubman and now? Well, the difference is they all agreed that the one problem they had was structural racism, okay, in their time. Today, if you get 50 black people in one room, we can't agree on what our problems are. That's why we're here. It's got nothing to do with the size of England or the population. It's to do with agreement. When you don't have agreement, see, this is what Castro was saying. If he can get his people to agree, they can beat America. Now, America's got more weapons than anyone else in the world, yes? But yet Castro still beat them. Castro still beat them because he got the country to agree and unify with one message.
An organization.
We want you out of our country and we don't want the mafia here, and that's it. And they beat America hands down. Go back, look in the history. And what I'm trying to tell you, this has got nothing to do. We, as a race of people.
I think the point I was about to go on to make was that in Black America, they are bigger in number and they're able to arm themselves.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
think what I was trying to say is that we are smaller in number and we cannot arm ourselves.
Yeah, but even with,
you know what I mean? So
forgetting
in terms of the impact that we're going to make in whatever efforts we're making in terms of freeing ourselves, the impact is going to be minimized for us in the UK. So what I was going to end with was saying that what we need to do in the UK is to be more strategic in how we execute what we do.
Yeah,
and that was the point I was going to make.
Yeah, 100%. But I would go back to Adam Smith. If anybody does economics, you have to read Adam Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was ahead of his time, as you already know, right? He was way ahead of his time. He was 18th century economist. He was talking about economics that no one talks about for centuries to come. The point why I'm using, this was one man. And yet his book, which is 3 centuries old, is still used today
in the stock markets,
in the universities today. And what I'm trying to show people is that one thing I learned from Diane Abbott and Jesse Jackson, and Diane Abbott is still an MP today, she's proven her point, was that we have got to get into a position of what's our strengths. The strength of Black people is love. The strength of Black people is economics, but we don't know it yet.
Absolutely.
The strength of Black people is mobilization, but we don't know it yet. So what we have to do is look at what our strengths are and build on that. And while we're building on the strength, we're purging from our own community the waste man.
Simultaneously.
Yeah. Right, Lassard, that means a rubbish man and a rubbish woman. That's what waste man means.
They're like deadbeat, no good.
They're deadbeats, yeah. So we call them waste man in England, yeah, or waste women. And so building on that and using that model, you will purge out, because that's what has to happen. We're going to have to purge ourselves from some whatless men and whatless women. We have to. There's no way of doing this. But the way to do it is through love and through economics. So it's not going to be through hate. We're not going to go into somebody's yard and root them out that way. We're going to do it through love. So they have two choices. They either come with love or they have to leave. And what I'm saying is that we can't continue to use, whether we're a big island, small island. What you said is completely correct. Strategy. And a strategy has got to be fundamentally built on love and economics and mobilization, because there are more of us than white people in the world. That's a fact.
11 to 1.
Mobilize. We have more natural resources in the world than any white country put together. Africa, the Caribbean, and India. Okay, we've got more resources. The problem is the resources are in the hands of white corporations, because the countries like Africa and India have allowed white corporations to come in there and take over. So we have to remodel, which is what Castro did. He remodeled Cuba. So we have to remodel Africa, remodel Caribbean, remodel parts of America, remodel Brazil, remodel India, so that we are in control and not the corporations.
I believe that that process has begun. You know, I was part of the influx during COVID that flooded into Tanzania. Black Americans, Black British, Caribbean people, mainly Jamaicans, but we flooded in and took the Tanzanian authorities by storm. They didn't know what to make of us. They didn't know who we were. They you know, it's not West Africa where they have a relationship and an experience of us. There was comments being made, you know, why are they all here? Have they come to steal our land like they do in Ghana? It was that kind of mentality. But 2 years in, we're starting to see some of those inroads, and we're starting to bridge the gap between those of us in the diaspora, or what we call the sixth region, and those of us in Africa. So that process has begun. And I think the other thing that we need as well, which is probably the simplest thing, is patience. Black people really want to see everything happen in their lifetime. And if it doesn't happen in their lifetime, they're not down with it. They're not in support of it. Oh, it's stupidness. We're never going to see this happen. We can never change. You've got Rasta men who purport that it's all about word, sound, and power and chanting into existence what you need. But out of the same next side of their mouth, they're saying that the black man will never be free. I had this conversation the other day with a Rasta guy. You know, it was like, how can you, on the one hand, be a Rasta who stands for the principle of word, sound, power, and chanting into the atmosphere what it is you want to bring back to yourself, but on the other hand, you truly don't believe that black people you will never see it in your lifetime. You're putting that out there. You're chanting that out there, you know, and it's about that self-belief, as I think Lesedi or somebody else said, having that confidence to believe in ourselves. But it begins with the healing, doesn't it? We need to continue the conversation, I think, outside of this forum in terms of deliverers, commentators, people that are invested in making sure that those things reach our community and those programs are pushed forward. What you said, Lesedi, about, or someone else said about having our own police system. If you go to a part of North London called Stamford Hill, it's a massive Jewish community. It's a little bit like, is it Bed-Stuy or one of those places in New York?
Bed-Stuy.
It's very similar, where you've got a big Hasidic Jewish community. And I guarantee you drive there at any day or time of the night, and what you will see is Jewish security. They are a form of police. They stand up outside the synagogues, the schools, they patrol the streets in that neighborhood, and they've been able to do it. But there is an element where they've been allowed to do that. Because as brother pointed out, you know, you spoke a little bit about COINTELPRO and the way that they infiltrate our organizations. That's another learning that we need to have, how to recognize that and understand exactly what infiltration looks like, how it's done, what it produces, and how we can combat against it. We need to take all of the experiences of our forefathers, you know, from Dr. Khalid to Malcolm, right down to Marcus Garvey and beyond. And we need to learn from their mistakes and the way they did things, as well as take their good practice or their best practice. So that's kind of my last word on it. I want to thank Sheldon, my brother. I will be calling you after this. Same with you, Lesedi. Let's see what we can put together. I want to give big love and respect and honor to you, Sister Claudette, for coming on and sharing your story and telling us,
and thank you for
about your
allowing me to
experience.
share.
And also to do that on the night that your daughter was returned to you is massive, my sister.
Thank you.
It's massive. I just want to thank everybody on the panel tonight, and wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful evening. So I'm going to take you guys off, and we're going to do some updates. So thank you again, Brother Sheldon.
You.
All right then.
Thank you.
Care.
Sister Lashady. Thank you, my sister. Blessed love. We'll talk again soon.
Yes.
And yes, so Sister Claudette.
Thank you. It's been extremely powerful today. It really has.
I
Thank
believe
you for
so.
sharing.
You know, for some people, I think they may have felt that that we were straying a little bit, but we weren't. it's all interconnected,
It's all
isn't it, my sister?
exactly. I can see it all.
It's all
Definitely.
interconnected. So massive respect to the giants who were on in the room. You know, Brother Sheldon is a massive giant in our community. He's been working tirelessly a lifetime, you know, and comes with just unparalleled experience. Same for Sister Lasady. You know, you can feel her passion in what she does and her belief in what she does, sis. We're going to continue talking as well, Claudette, because there's a lot of healing, isn't there, to be done,
Definitely.
and still lots of support. I feel
Journey.
that we lack programs for young Black girls at the moment. You know,
100%.
there's a lot of programs for young Black boys, and at that point when those programs emerged, there was a deficit. You know, it was needed, but I think we've kind of swung the other way now, and we need to start putting programs out there for young Black girls, which is what we want to do. So yes, my sister, I will give you a call very, very soon.
Okay, thank you.
We'll debrief about tonight. But thank you so much, sis, for letting us into your life. Thank you, sister.
Thank you for allowing me to come onto your platform and all your support.
Thank you, sis. And you know, we're just so happy, happy that the children are home. You know, so happy.
Thank you. And sleep.
All right, my love. Blessed
Take
love.
care. Stay blessed.
Yes, brothers and sisters, definitely a powerful stream tonight. And I think it was important to for us to really widen out the conversation a little bit, and you know, to get people to understand how these things are all interlinked and interconnected in terms of our trauma, some of the issues that we see playing out. They all come from one source, really. And I think what we've agreed tonight is that comes from trauma. The whole thing comes from trauma in terms of how Black men have ended up, how they have pathologized within the space, how we have pathologized within the space, and how that impacts on our children and some of the choices that they make and how vulnerable they can be. So yes, my brothers and sisters, I think I'm going to leave updates until next week. It has been a mammoth one. I think you know, the one before last was the longest, but tonight feels like it's actually been the longest. I want to thank all the moderators. You know, a lot of the things that we were talking about tonight needs funding. That's what it needs. And if we are to set up our helpline, you know, create Sisters of the Underground UK, attend Sheldon's workshops and have more of those, you know, support that brother, support him financially, support Sister Lasada financially, support me financially, support everyone else in the space that is trying to do the right thing financially. Marcus Garvey took $1 from 5 million Black people in Harlem, $1, and built the army that he built and the legacy that remains to this day. Okay, we can do that. And that's why we've opened out the challenge. We've got the links here in case you want to donate. Minimum £3 challenge. If you can give more and you're able to, that's fantastic. But I think everybody can afford the price of a Costa coffee, which is about £3. Please, please, please give as generously as you can, my brothers and sisters. We have to build this infrastructure. It's all very well us spectating. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? We keep saying that it's the white man's fault and, you know, he does this and he does that. But if it is, then why do we feel we always have to go to our perpetrator in order to move forward? We've got to be able to do this ourselves. And I'm a firm believer that we really, really can. So keep giving to all the causes. Even, you know, I give to causes and I might give £2 to that, £2 to that, £2 to that. But I know that I've spent my quota, which might be £20 a month, on various causes. Every mickle make a muckle, as we say in Jamaica, my brothers and sisters. So thank you once again. I don't even think I've got the energy or the time to go through any of the comments, and some of them have been a little bit idiotic tonight, in all honesty. I'm glad that we've got our moderators in who are always powerful and strong. Oh, don't know what's happened to my stream. It's gone a bit weird. Who were always powerful and strong. I thought I'd lost the chats just then. And thank you. Yeah, I'll do a couple of quick ones. Millie says that thanks, Afua. Tonight was so important for all of us. Thank you. I felt it was, and I feel that, you know, sometimes we can focus on the negatives. We know what's going on. We know that our community is full of paedophiles and historic rapists and what have you. But do we really understand how we got here? And do we understand how it is that we're trying to get ourselves out of here? You know, that's what we really wanted to focus on tonight. And I think we did that very well. I'm proud of the panel that we had on. I think everybody stood in their own power. And yeah, so we will be back again next week with our usual format. And I'm going to do this a bit more intermittently until we kind of build up an interest for that. And then we'll look about membership and different things that we've spoken about. I do want to talk about Sir Lloyd next week and how he's gallivanting around town as if nothing's ever happened and how the community is still cheering him. And I do want to talk about a few perpetrators next week as well. So blessed love, my brothers and sisters. It's been wonderful. It's been mammoth. And as always, it's been enlightening. I want to thank you, the His Time Is Up family as well, because you guys always keep it real. You always keep it faithful. And we got quality in the room tonight. And I'm feeling that. I'm really, really feeling that. So until next week, my brothers and sisters, stay safe. Enjoy your weekend. Don't work too hard. Love and watch your children very closely. And let's mobilize and organize, my brothers and sisters. I believe we can. Blessed love, blessed love, blessed love.